Chapter 43-25. Half a month later, Zhuowen and the rest arrived at the serene domain. Although the serene domain was also a high-level domain, it was ranked last among the 16 high-level domains. In terms of power and resources, it was much weaker than the Nuwa domain. The ancient teleportation formation that leads directly to the Zhixian sacred city is located in the serene divine city, the core city of the serene domain. The serene divine city is in the northeast, about a day and a half away from us. On the deck, Shan Lingyun held an ancient map scroll that was half her size as she gave out instructions in a logical manner. This little girl, it's easy for her to talk. She only needs to look at the ancient map scroll, and she can order me around. I'm just a laborer. What a tough life. Xiao He muttered, but her hands did not slow down. She changed the direction of the divine ship and headed toward the northeast. First, when they were half a day away from the serene divine city, the divine ship suddenly shook violently as if it had been hit by a heavy blow. The body of the ship spun rapidly in the air, and a huge hole appeared on the side of the divine ship. Zhuowen, who had been cultivating with his eyes closed in the depths of the ship, suddenly opened his eyes and went to the deck. Xiao He, what's wrong? Zhuowen looked at Xiao He, who was trying her best to stabilize the ship, and asked with a frown. Little Black's eyes were filled with murderous intent. Someone suddenly attacked our divine ship. It's over there. One looked in the direction that Xiao He was pointing. A few thousand meters away in the northeast, a black divine ship was speeding toward them. On the deck of the black divine ship stood a middle-aged man in a luxurious robe. His eyes were filled with mockery and viciousness, while on both sides of the black divine ship, there were more than 10 pitch-black cannons neatly arranged. At this moment, these cannons were shooting out blazing white light, which condensed into a terrifying attack that shot toward Zhuowen's divine ship. Is this person crazy? We have no enmity with him. Why is he suddenly attacking us? Xiao He cursed, but her actions were not slow. She controlled the divine ship to continuously dodge the light cannons fired by the black divine ship. The black divine ship had clearly been modified at a later stage. There were many powerful cannons installed on it. On the other hand, Zhuowen's divine ship was just an ordinary divine ship for civilian use. It didn't have any offensive equipment. In front of the black divine ship, Zhuowen's divine ship was simply a live target. It could only dodge and not attack. Xiao He's skills were really good, and he managed to dodge all the light cannons. Wow. Master Long, your piloting skills are amazing. You can travel freely in front of so many light cannons. Sure Potion's eyes lit up as he clapped his hands and praised. Little Black had a smug look on his face as he said, Of course. Why don't you think about how many years this Dragon Lord has been piloting the divine ship? Naturally, my skills are top-notch. Be careful. One suddenly reminded her loudly. Xiao He, who was originally proud of herself, immediately woke up. Ran after that, Xiao He was shocked to discover that the black divine ship no longer used the light cannons to attack. Instead, it directly crashed into them. The black divine ship's pitch-black bow, which was like copper tendons and iron bones, crashed heavily into the side of Zhuowen's divine ship. Boom! Bang! A terrifying explosion resounded as Zhuowen's divine ship was split into 2 halves. Zhuowen's face was gloomy. He formed hand seals with both hands and took out a ray disc. He quickly set up a gluing formation and quickly pieced the divine ship that was originally split into 2 pieces back together. Black on the deck of the divine ship, the middle-aged man looked at Zhuowen in surprise. A mocking smile appeared at the corner of his mouth as he steered the black divine ship away. You're courting death. Zhuowen's heart was filled with hostility. He didn't offend anyone, and he didn't even know this middle-aged man. Yet, he was attacked for no reason. Anyone would be very unhappy when encountering such a thing. After Zhuowen stabilized the divine ship, he leaped up and used the primordial chaos movement technique to the extreme. he quickly chased after the Black Divine Ship. The Black Divine Ship was extremely fast, much faster than Zhuowen's Divine Ship. Zhuowen used the primordial chaos movement technique to the extreme, but he could only barely keep up with the speed of the Black Divine Ship. Black on the Divine Ship, the middle-aged man seemed to have sensed something. He turned his head and looked at Zhuowen, who was constantly chasing after him. His eyes revealed a look of surprise before it was replaced by a thick look of mockery. A mere mid-stage cosmic tribulation trash. Your movement technique is not bad. You can actually catch up to my divine ship. If I wasn't being chased by someone and couldn't afford to waste time, I wouldn't mind stopping to play with you. The middle-aged man muttered to himself with a faint smile. He gently pinched the void with his right hand, and a pitch-black light suddenly burst out from his palm. Origin, the Black Divine Ship, which was originally extremely fast, suddenly erupted with a strange black fog. Then, the Black Divine Ship's speed doubled, and in the blink of an eye, it shook off Zhuowen. Zhuowen stopped and looked at the black dot that was getting further and further away. He felt a little helpless. This person's divine ship was very unusual. Its speed was almost comparable to an ordinary peak cosmic Dharma idol expert. Counter, on the other hand, the middle-aged man's cultivation was relatively ordinary. He was probably around the late-stage cosmic Dharma idol. If he were to clash with Zhuowen head-on, with Zhuowen using all his trump cards, this person would not be a match for Zhuowen. Only yes, Zhuowen was very puzzled. What was the meaning of this person crashing into his divine ship for no reason? Was there something wrong with his brain? When Zhuowen returned to where Xiao He and the others were, his expression suddenly changed. Only he saw that there were dozens of figures surrounding his divine ship. In the group, there were two people in the lead. One was an extremely beautiful woman, and the other was an old man wearing divine armor. While the dozens of figures were also wearing divine armor similar to the old man's. Obviously, this old man should be the leader of this group. However, this old man, who seemed to be the leader, was respectful and reverent to the beautiful woman beside him. His eyes were full of awe. "Hey! I already said that we don't have the divine fire seed that you mentioned. I don't even know what it is." On the ship, Xiao He was cursing and explaining. However, its words were obviously useless. This group of people surrounding them had no intention of retreating at all. "Everyone, what is the meaning of this?" Zhuowen hurried over and landed on the divine ship. He looked at the old man and the beautiful woman in front of him, and asked in a low voice. Ling, to Zhuowen's surprise, the aura of the old man and the beautiful woman were not weak. Ling Tian, not to mention the old man in divine armor. His aura was even stronger than the beautiful woman's, but he had not reached the level of inverse ancient starlight. The old man should be half a step into inverse ancient starlight. His strength was much stronger than the beautiful woman's. As for the beautiful woman, her cultivation was at the peak cosmic Dharma idol level. Following the dozens of people around the two of them were basically above the great calamity of heaven and earth. In the Serene domain, only the Serene clan could send out so many great calamity of heaven and earth cultivators at once. Chapter 43-26. I am Shixing, the clan leader of the Serene clan. This is the third saintess of the Zixien clan, Her Highness Zi Long. Why don't you kneel down and greet us? Shixing shouted with a dignified expression. The third saintess of the Zixien clan? Zhuowen looked at the beautiful woman beside the old man in surprise. He did not expect to meet the saintess of the Zixien clan here. During his time in the Zixien realm, Zhuowen had also investigated many major forces in the Zixien realm. In the Zixien clan, women were in charge, and the most respected leader was the female supremacy. The Zixien clan was led by two female supremacies, and these two were said to be experts in the inverse starlight realm. Under the female supremacy was the saintess. The Zixien clan had a total of 5 saintesses, and their status was second only to the female supremacy. In fact, they were the leaders of the Zixien clan on the surface. This was because the two female supremacies in the Zixien clan were extremely mysterious. They were elusive, and all the matters in the clan were basically handled by the 5 saintesses. Seeing that Zhuowen did not intend to kneel down and greet him, Shi Xing's wrinkled face showed displeasure. Just as he was about to scold Zhuowen, the third saintess Zi Long waved her hand and stopped Shi Xing. "We are following the aura of the divine fire seed. From what I can sense, the aura of the divine fire seed is on your divine ship. If you want to get rid of suspicion, you can let us search your divine ship." Zi Long's voice was as clear as an oriole's, and it was like a spring breeze. Zhuowen's heart sank. He immediately remembered the middle-aged man on the black divine ship who had attacked his divine ship for no reason. He clearly remembered that the middle-aged man had a mocking smile on his face after crashing into his divine ship. Could it be that the middle-aged man deliberately left the so-called divine fire seed on his divine ship when he crashed into their divine ship? Okay. You can search, but I hope you can do it quickly. We are in a hurry. Zhuowen nodded and gestured for Xiao He and the others to leave the divine ship. He also complained unintentionally, "Today is really unlucky. We were just attacked by a black divine ship and almost lost our lives. Now we are going to be searched again. If I had known earlier, I would have checked the almanac before leaving today." After Zi Long arranged for people to enter the divine ship to search, she naturally heard Zhuowen's complaints. Her beautiful eyes brightened. "Fellow Taoist, just now you said that you were attacked by a black divine ship. Then, did you clearly see who was piloting the black divine ship?" Zi Long approached Zhuowen and quickly asked. Of course he saw it clearly. That damn dog had the appearance of a middle-aged man. He had a big nose and squinted eyes. We were on our way, but this son of a bitch suddenly attacked us. This is really infuriating. If this Lord Dragon catches this son of a bitch, this Lord Dragon will definitely cut him into 1,000 pieces and let him have a taste of being f***ed by a dog. When she mentioned the black ship and the middle-aged man, Xiao He immediately cursed out loud. She was extremely agitated as she constantly described what had happened. "I knew it. On the day we lost the sacred fire seed, Fei Pengze suddenly went out for some business. How could there be such a coincidence in this world? The sacred fire seed was indeed stolen by him. Sure enough, every man is a good thing." Zi Long frowned and coldly snorted while gritting her teeth. Zhuowen was somewhat speechless as he looked at Zi Long, who had expected better from him. He actually wanted to retort that there were actually good men. Her conclusion was too arbitrary. No. However, when he saw that Zi Long was about to explode, Zhuowen tactfully remained silent. He didn't want to provoke this woman. Very quickly. Soon, this group of cultivators searched Zhuowen's divine ship and found a pitch-black crystal that was half the size of a palm in the depths of the ship. This is the waste of the sacred fire seed. Fei Pengze actually knows how to extract the sacred fire seed? He approached the second saintess with impure intentions. Zi Long exclaimed. Zi Long held the pitch-black crystal in her hand and secretly sighed. She understood that after the sacred fire seed was extracted, even if he found Fei Pengze and killed him, he wouldn't be able to get back the complete sacred fire seed. Because, once the sacred fire seed was extracted, it couldn't be used again. This time, her mission had clearly ended in failure. Zi Long glanced at Zhuowen and thought that this mission wasn't completely fruitless. At least she had figured out who stole the sacred fire seed. Can you tell me which direction the black divine ship escaped in? Zi Long asked. Zhuowen pointed in the direction the black divine ship escaped and said, "His black divine ship is very fast. I'm afraid you won't be able to catch up in time." Zi Long didn't reply. Instead, she used her movement technique and chased in the direction Zhuowen pointed. About an hour later, Zi Long returned to this place. Lord Zilong, did you catch up to that person? Shishing hurriedly went up and asked in a fawning manner. Zilong shook her head. Her beautiful eyes stared at Zhuowen and said, I need you to come with me to Zhixian Holy City. I need you to testify for me regarding Fei Pingzi. Zhuowen frowned slightly. Zilong was a little too full of herself. He had never met Zilong before. She didn't even ask for his name and wanted him to testify for her. Could it be that in this woman's eyes, everyone should listen to her orders and act according to her wishes? Although Zhuowen's destination was Zhixian Holy City, he didn't like the feeling of being ordered around. If Zilong was polite and asked him to go, he might have gladly gone. But if he followed Zilong, he would definitely be interrogated by the upper echelons of the Zhixian clan. This wasn't something Zhuowen liked. You and I have never met before. I don't owe you anything. I refuse to go with you to Zhixian Holy City, Zhuowen said lightly. Zilong's beautiful eyes widened. She obviously didn't expect Zhuowen to reject her request. As the third holy maiden of the Zhixian clan, her status was high and her word was law. Since others had always fawned over her and listened to her, no one had ever rejected her request. But now, this unprepossessing young man in front of her actually rejected her request. Zilong wrinkled her nose and didn't understand. Do I still need a reason to refuse? Zhuowen shook his head speechlessly and continued, If there's nothing else, then we'll take our leave. Stop right there. You've got guts. What kind of status does Lord Zilong have? You actually dare to be so impudent? Do you want to die? Shishing brought several dozen people and blocked Zhuowen's path, berating Zhuowen loudly. Zhuowen looked at Shishing coldly and said indifferently, What? Could it be that if I refuse, you all will kill me? You offended Lord Zilong, that's courting death. Even if I kill you 1,000 times, 10,000 times, it's still not enough to redeem your great sin, Shishing said with a cold smile. It's fine if you like to be someone else's dog, but why force others to be your dog? Don't do to others what you don't want done to you, haven't you heard before? Zhuowen shook his head and said with a sneer. You're courting death. Shishing was fuming with anger. This boy actually dared to mock him as a dog. This was simply humiliating him in public. A mere middle-stage universe Great Tribulation trash actually dares to insult me. You've already committed a great crime. I'll execute you on the spot. Killing intent surged in Shishing's eyes. His right hand was like lightning, fiercely grabbing at Zhuowen's face. Chapter 43:27. Zhuowen looked calmly at Shishing's attack that was getting closer and closer. A strong gust of wind swept over and blew Zhuowen's hair. The moment Shishing attacked, Zhuowen noticed that Zilong was standing at the side and watching coldly. There was even a mocking smile at the corner of her mouth. Look, Zilong was not a good person. She was silently allowing Shishing to kill him. Boom! An ear-piercing explosion sounded continuously. Shishing's attack was close at hand. His claws were like cast iron. With one claw, it was as if he could tear Zhuowen apart. You're dead, trash! Shishing shouted. Shing grinned and silently mocked Zhuowen, who did not move at all. Boom! Shishing's claws hit Zhuowen's body, and the entire space stirred up waves of terrifying ripples. Then, he was shocked to find that Zhuowen's entire body was shattered. He could even hear the sound of surging waves. Boom! The shattered Zhuowen turned into water splashes and fell from the sky, silently merging into the depths of the earth. Boom! The moment Zhuowen used the secret technique of water escape, Xiaohe, Shirpatian, and Shan Lingyun entered the parallel world. He's dead? Shishing asked. Shing looked at Zhuowen, who had turned into water splashes and merged into the earth, and muttered to himself in a daze. Zilong, who was watching by the side, suddenly narrowed her eyes. Boom! She stretched out her slender jade-like hand and pointed at the ground where the formless water had landed. Boom! Boom! The ground exploded, forming a deep, pitch-black crater. He disappeared. Even his aura seemed to have evaporated. What kind of secret technique is this? Zilong looked down at the huge pit in front of her silently. Her beautiful eyes flickered, and she could not help but click her tongue in wonder. Master Zilong, do you mean that the kid just escaped? Shi Xing came to Zilong's side and naturally heard what she said. He could not help but ask with his eyes wide open. In Shi Xing's opinion, it was impossible for Zhuowen, who was merely at the middle stage of the universe's great tribulation, to survive his attack. He really did run away. This child's cultivation is not very high, but he has many tricks up his sleeves. Just now, after he turned into the formless water, his aura completely disappeared. If I had not been observing from the side, I would also have thought that this child was dead, Zilong said. Shi Xing's expression was a little ugly. He had originally planned to perform well in front of Zilong to gain her favor. As the saintess of the Zixien clan, Zilong was respected and admired by tens of thousands of people. She was much more glorious than him, the clan leader of the Shi clan. If he could establish a connection with Zilong, he and the Shi domain that he was in charge of would benefit greatly. Now, Zhuowen had escaped right under his nose, causing him to lose face. Shi Xing hated Zhuowen so much that his teeth itched. Master Zilong, should we continue to pursue Fei Pengze? Shi Xing asked. He should still be in the Shi domain. Patrol carefully during this period of time. If you receive any news of him, do not try to alert him. Inform me immediately, Zilong said in a low voice. Shi Xing said somewhat disapprovingly, Master Zilong, you are being too careful. That Fei Pengze is only at the late stage of the cosmic Dharma stage. I alone am enough to capture this person. Zilong's expression turned cold and said rudely, What do you know? Fei Pengze's cultivation is not very high, but he has an extremely fast and powerful black divine ship. In addition, this person is extremely cunning. Once you alert him, you may not be able to capture him smoothly. Shi Xing quickly nodded and did not dare to object anymore. Let's go. I need to make a trip back to Zixien Holy City to bring back the news of Fei Pengze. It's a pity, if we could capture that person alive and not testify for us, the following matters would become very simple. Zixien said. Zilong thought of the second saintess's unreasonable personality and extremely protective nature. If there was no concrete evidence, the second saintess would definitely stand on the side of her husband, Fei Pengze. Although it was troublesome, Zilong also knew that with the passage of time, his deduction would definitely be confirmed. She did not believe that Fei Pengze, who had stolen the divine fire seed, would dare to return to the Zixien Holy City. At thousands of kilometers away, the invisible water that Zhuowen had transformed into appeared on the shore of a river and reformed into a human form. Shi Xing and Zilong are really unreasonable. They killed people just because they move. Isn't this a little too much? Dan Shan said. Ling Yun came out of the great world and waved her little fist angrily. The weak are prey to the strong, survival of the fittest. This has always been the rule of the path of cultivation. Zhuowen, on the other hand, was very calm. He did not feel indignant that Shi Xing had killed him just because of a disagreement. At the world of cultivators there were no rules. Whoever had the biggest fist could do whatever they wanted. Therefore, if one did not easily fall on the path of cultivation, then one had to be cunning and vigilant enough. One had to make oneself stronger, so strong that no one could threaten you. This divine ship has already been seen by Shi Xing, Zilong, and the others. In order to avoid being recognized by them, let's change to another divine ship. After Zhuowen destroyed the already tattered divine ship, he took out another completely different divine ship from the Great World. At the same time, in the Great World, there were many divine ships prepared in order to prevent things like today from happening. The group continued to move towards Shi Rant's divine ship. Bai Xiaohe became more cautious during the journey due to what had happened before, to the point of being somewhat nervous. As long as he saw other divine ships approaching from afar, Xiaohe would immediately run away as if he was running away, as if he was afraid that the divine ship would randomly bump into him, causing the cultivators passing by to be baffled. Originally, it was only half a day's journey away from Shi Ran's divine ship, but the overly cautious Xiaohe took 2 days to arrive at Shi Ran's divine city. At the same time, Zhuowen, who had been using the primordial stone to deduce the incomplete demonic book obtained by the limitless demon sect, finally succeeded in deducing the incomplete part of the demonic book. Nothing is limitless, and the demonic is limitless. Limitless is limitless, and this is the limitless demonic Tao. Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes and muttered the first few sentences of the complete demonic book. The complete demonic book was called the limitless demonic book, and the cultivator of this demonic book was called the limitless demonic Tao. Even more, what surprised Zhuowen was that the limitless demonic book was a lawful embodiment of heaven and earth level demonic book. Strange, back then, the limitless demon sect relied on this demonic book to dominate several realms, and their foundation and power surpassed most of the high-grade realms. Zhuowen suspected that the founder of the limitless demon sect had only cultivated this demonic book to a small success stage. Thus the limitless demonic book was so powerful that if one could cultivate it to a large success stage, they would probably be able to reach the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth level. Back then, the limitless demon sect had not only dominated several realms, but had also leaped to become a new supreme realm. The limitless demonic book had a total of 4 levels, and each level was more difficult than the previous one. What interested Zhuowen even more was that the limitless demonic book wasn't the type of demonic technique that was domineering in attack, but a supportive demonic technique. Within the limitless demonic book, there weren't any offensive divine abilities, and the only divine ability was demonic die. Chapter 43-28. Mo Ran was the core ability of the limitless demon book. Its main function was to instantly contaminate all the cultivation methods, abilities, artifacts, and so on of the cultivator with a powerful demonic nature. Momo Ran would not cause any damage to the cultivator's abilities, cultivation methods, and artifacts. On the contrary, it would greatly enhance the cultivator's abilities, cultivation methods, and artifacts. While if Mo Ran was contaminated by an enemy, it would immediately demonize the enemy and greatly weaken the enemy. If the enemy's mind was weak, it would be easy to be controlled by Mo Ran and become a puppet of the cultivator. While this degree of strengthening oneself and weakening the enemy would become stronger as one's cultivation of the limitless demon book became more profound. The more Zhuowen understood the limitless demon book, the brighter the light in his eyes. This limitless devil tome was simply made for the current him. In the Nuwa domain, he had offended many experts of the super domains. If he directly entered the super domain like this, there was no doubt that the chances of being exposed would be very high. After all, many experts had seen his battle scenes and knew his aura and abilities. If he had Mo Ran's cover, even if he used the same ability, it would be a demonic ability. No one would associate it with him. Zhuowen did not immediately cultivate the limitless demon book. Instead, he walked out of the divine ship and brought Shan Lingyun and the others into Shi Ran God City in a low-key manner. Ji Yuan, you are actually so familiar with Shi Ran God City? After entering Shi Ran God City, under Ji Yuan's suggestion, they came to a relatively affordable inn near the center of the city. While under Ji Yuan's reminder, Shi Ran God City held the 10,000 Lanterns Festival in the last 3 days. The entire city was filled with a festive atmosphere. While in these 3 days, the ancient teleportation array will be temporarily closed. After the festival, it will open again. While Ji Yuan smiled at Zhuowen's question and said casually, I stayed in Sure-Ran God City for a period of time and happened to encounter the 10,000 Lanterns Festival. At that time, I was also going to Zixien Sacred City, but I had a closed door, so I have a deep impression of it. One looked at Zhu Yuan indifferently. Although he felt that Zhu Yuan was hiding something, he did not ask. After all, this was his private matter. In the inn's high-grade cultivation room, Zhuowen did not pay any attention to the outside world, and began to concentrate on cultivating the limitless devil scripture. In the process of using the primordial stone to deduce, he already had a very deep understanding of the cultivation of the limitless demonic scripture. Therefore, when he cultivated it, it was actually twice the effort for half the result. In just 3 days, he had successfully cultivated the first level of the limitless devil scripture. Mo ran. Zhuowen slowly stood up. His lips moved slightly as dense demonic fog wrapped around his entire body. In the depths of the demonic fog, a pair of crimson eyes appeared. From afar, it really did look like a demonic cultivator. The demonic mist gradually receded, revealing Zhuowen's true appearance. Under the influence of Mo Ran, Zhuowen's face also changed. His skin became fairer, and his eyes flashed with a demonic red light. The corners of his mouth curled up into a devilish smile. If Zhuowen used the primordial grand mist art to slightly alter his aura and appearance, even people familiar with him wouldn't be able to recognize him at first glance. Dong dong dong. There was a knock on the door, and then Shan Lingyun's voice sounded. Zhuowen opened the door, and Shan Lingyun was standing outside. When the door opened, Shan Lingyun was about to grumble, but when she raised her head and saw Zhuowen's face, she was stunned. Did I knock on the wrong door? Shan Lingyun was confused. She looked at the door number subconsciously, and after confirming that it was correct, she looked at the demonic man in front of her with a strange gaze. This demonic man's eyes flashed with a red light, and it made her very uncomfortable. Zhuowen withdrew the effects of Mo Ran, and his appearance and aura returned to normal. It's me, Zhuowen said with a smile. Shan Lingyun patted her chest and rolled her eyes at Zhuowen. She curiously said, "Disciple, your disguise technique is getting more and more powerful. I didn't recognize you just now. If you didn't restore your appearance, I would have thought that I was facing a fiendish devil cultivator." Zhuowen said. Wen's smile grew wider. It seemed that the effects of Mo Ran were beyond his expectations. Even Shan Lingyun couldn't recognize him. The 10,000 Lanterns Festival is over. Today, the ancient teleportation array in Sure-Ran God City will be reopened. We can teleport, Shan Lingyun said with a smile. Zhuowen nodded and said, "Before we go, you, the Zhu Yuan, and the rest should enter my world first, in order to avoid unnecessary trouble." Shan Lingyun said. Shan Lingyun naturally knew what trouble Zhuowen was talking about. After all, they had offended Shisheng a few days ago. Zhuowen's disguise was better than theirs, and he could get away with it. However, they might not be able to do so. Shisheng, the ancient teleportation array in Sure-Ran God City, was located in the central Great Temple. At this moment, there was a long queue outside the central Great Temple. Many cultivators were waiting to use the ancient teleportation array to go to other regions. Due to the delay of the 10,000 Lanterns Festival, there were many people waiting to use the ancient teleportation array today. There were only 2 ancient teleportation arrays in the central Great Temple, so the efficiency was very slow. After one arrived at the central Great Temple, he silently queued at the back of the queue. Due to the effects of Mo Ran, although Zhuowen didn't deliberately release demonic aura, the faint cold demonic aura still affected the people queuing around him. No few people deliberately distanced themselves from Zhuowen. Their eyes were full of fear when they looked at the latter. Demonic cultivators did as they pleased and didn't stick to one pattern. They killed people as they pleased. Many cultivators didn't want to provoke demonic cultivators, let alone get too close to such dangerous people. Zhuowen, on the other hand, enjoyed it. At least he didn't need to queue with others. After a few hours, it was finally Zhuowen's turn. Dong. When they were about to enter the ancient teleportation array, two figures suddenly appeared from the depths of the God City. Everyone looked up. When they saw one of the elders, they were all in awe. As for the guards of the great shrine, they all knelt on the ground. Greetings to the great clan leader. The guards knelt on one knee and shouted in unison. This elder was the great clan leader of the Shi clan, Shi Xing. At this moment, Shi Xing, the great leader of the clan, was following behind an extremely beautiful woman in an ingratiating manner. He had a servile and subservient appearance. This beautiful woman was the third saintess of the Zhixian clan, Zilong Tu. When they arrived at the gate of the central great temple, Shi Xing glanced at Zhuowen expressionlessly and shouted, "Get lost." The two guards in charge of the ancient teleportation array also rudely blocked in front of Zhuowen with their long spears and rudely pushed him out. "Are you deaf? Why haven't you scrammed to the side yet?" The guard bluntly shouted and smiled at Shi Xing. "As the great clan leader of the Shi clan, you don't even abide by the rules set by your own clan. Instead, you wantonly cut the line. Isn't this a bit unbefitting of your status as a great clan leader?" Zhuowen said indifferently. Shi Xing, who had originally ignored Zhuowen, narrowed his eyes and turned to look coldly at Zhuowen. He said, "What did you say?" Zilong frowned and said impatiently, "Shi Xing, I'm in a hurry. If you want to quarrel, you don't have to follow me to Zhixian Sacred City. I can go by myself." Shi Xing hurriedly nodded and bowed. He coldly looked at Zhuowen and gave the surrounding guards a look. Then, he brought Zilong into the ancient teleportation array on the left. Clang! After Shi Xing and Zilong were teleported away, all the guards in the central great temple rushed out and surrounded Zhuowen. Chapter 43-29. What do you mean? Zhuowen raised an eyebrow, looking at the many guards who had completely surrounded him. His heart was full of sneers. How could he not have noticed the meaningful look in Shi Xing's eyes before he left? He really did not expect Shi Xing to be such a narrow-minded person. He was just speaking a few words of justice, but he still intended to capture him. "You already know the answer. You have openly contradicted our great clan master. You should be sentenced to death. However, my Shi clan is not unreasonable. If you take out 10 billion chaos crystals, or a treasure of the same value, we can sentence you to a suspended sentence. As long as you can take out something better, your crime will continue to be reduced, and you will eventually be acquitted." The leader of the team was a middle-aged man with a brandy nose. He looked mockingly at Zhuowen, shamelessly extorting him in public. Many of the cultivators who were lining up around the great temple retreated a distance. Their faces were calm, and they were not surprised by the middle-aged man's threatening words. Evidently, they had long known about the shameless style of the Shi clan and were accustomed to it. Among the spectators, many people showed a look of pity for Zhuowen. XDW8 This person was too outspoken. He dared to speak to Shi Xing like that. Wasn't this the same as hitting the muzzle of a gun? No wonder your Shi domain can only be at the bottom of the 16 higher domains. As the saying goes, if the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. Your great clan master is not a good thing, and your group of subordinates are a group of vermin. I can see that in less than 100 years, your Shi domain will not be able to maintain its status as a higher domain. Zhuowen shook his head, speaking bluntly. It seemed that the reason why the Shi domain fell behind the other higher domains was not without reason. A group of garbage that did not do any work was managing the Shi domain. It was simply a pipe dream for the Shi domain to be prosperous and catch up with the other higher domains. Zhuowen simply wouldn't stop until his words shocked people to death. His one sentence thoroughly stunned everyone. He was planning to offend the Shi clan. How dare you criticize our Sure-Ran clan? Do you not put our Sure-Ran clan in your eyes? The brandy-nosed middle-aged man's face was gloomy, his eyes bursting with strong murderous intent as he stared at Zhuowen. I'm sorry, I really don't put your Sure-Ran clan in my eyes. Also, you talk a lot of nonsense, you can shut up, Zhuowen replied without turning his head, intending to enter the great temple. He did not want to be entangled with these people. Now, he only wanted to rush to Zixian Saint City as soon as possible. However, even though he wanted to leave, the group of guards had no intention of letting him go. The red-nosed middle-aged man stood in front of Zhuowen, and the smile on his face was cold. Where do you think you're going? The middle-aged man's aura was rampant. The aura of the early Dharma laws of the universe rushed out of his body like an erupting volcano. I came to your Sure-Ran divine city to use your ancient teleportation array. I think you'd better not stop me. Otherwise, the consequences will be very serious. Zhuowen's eyes surged with viciousness. He had been obstructed time and time again, and he was already very impatient. Are you threatening me? A mere mid-stage universe tribulation ant dares to threaten me. The middle-aged man laughed. Just as he finished speaking, the killing intent in his eyes suddenly erupted. The aura of an early-stage Dharma idol was completely released. A huge Dharma idol floated in the void behind him. It was hundreds of feet tall and looked down at all the living beings around the great temple. Arrogant disciple, I won't kill you today. I'll cripple your limbs, cultivation, and soul. Then, I'll bring you back to the torture hall for interrogation. When the great clan master returns, I'll convict you. The middle-aged man merged into the huge Dharma idol. He slowly opened his mouth, and his magnificent voice spread throughout the entire divine city like a mighty heavenly might. Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, the huge Dharma idol's palm fell, crushing down on Zhuowen's head. It was as heavy and terrifying as a mountain. The many cultivators who had retreated a distance away were frightened when they saw the middle-aged man suddenly attack. Only when they were far enough away did they watch with lingering fear as the palm that was constantly burning with Dharma idol flames engulfed Zhuowen's tiny figure. Then, there was a shocking explosion on the ground where the divine city was located. Everyone secretly shook their heads. They knew that the young demonic cultivator was dead meat. After all, the young demonic cultivator's cultivation was too weak. He was only at the mid-stage of the universe tribulation. However, to everyone's astonishment, the huge Dharma idol's palm that was as heavy as a towering mountain suddenly collapsed. The huge Dharma idol let out a rather shrill and angry cry. It covered its collapsed right palm and retreated. The place where the young demonic cultivator stood suddenly surged with a strange demonic aura. In the pitch-black and deep demonic aura, 2 scarlet spots of light were so conspicuous and demonic. Bang! Suddenly, the ground exploded with a clap of thunder. In the surging demonic aura, the 2 scarlet spots of light suddenly shot up and charged towards the retreating Dharma idol. Only then did everyone see clearly that the 2 scarlet spots of light were a pair of eyes filled with demonic aura, and the young demonic cultivator was within the demonic aura. He held a demonic sword in his right hand that was also enveloped in demonic aura, and rushed in front of the Dharma idol at lightning speed. The Dharma idol roared and swept its other arm towards the young demonic cultivator. Clang! The young demonic cultivator did not dodge. He held the demonic sword in front of him and slashed out. Everyone was dumbfounded to find that the other arm of the Dharma idol had been chopped off from the shoulder. Clang, clang, clang! The young demonic cultivator was like a bolt of black lightning, flashing around the huge Dharma idol. His speed was too fast, so fast that even the middle-aged man in the Dharma idol could not see him clearly. When the young demonic cultivator finally stopped at the top of the great shrine, he held the demonic sword in his right hand and placed it by his side. A pair of scarlet eyes looked coldly at the huge Dharma idol not far away. The middle-aged man stared at the young demonic cultivator in the great shrine. He wanted to rush up and tear the young demonic cultivator to pieces. However, a sense of powerlessness overwhelmed his heart. Then, he was shocked to find that his Dharma idol had begun to split into pieces and finally collapsed into countless specks of light. The middle-aged man spat out a large mouthful of blood and fell to the ground in a sorry state. His entire body convulsed, and his entire body was in heart-wrenching pain. How can you be so strong? Are you really an expert in the middle stage of the great tribulation of heaven and earth? The middle-aged man stared at the young demonic cultivator in the great shrine and asked in disbelief. All the cultivators around the great shrine seemed to have become mute. They stared dumbfoundedly at the scene in front of them that was extremely inconceivable to them. Zhuowen ignored the middle-aged man. Instead, he jumped down from the great shrine and walked towards one of the ancient teleportation arrays in the great shrine. Chapter 43:30. You want to leave? Do you think it's that easy? The middle-aged man's eyes were full of resentment. After watching Zhuowen enter the great shrine, he quietly took out a formation flag from his waist, spat a mouthful of blood on the formation flag, and crushed it. He was the person in charge of the two ancient teleportation formations in the great shrine, so he naturally had some control over the two ancient teleportation formations. After crushing the formation flag, he immediately sent a message back to the inner city and asked someone to ring the emergency bell. After entering the great shrine, Zhuowen came to the ancient teleportation formation on the left. Although there was no teleporter to help the ancient teleportation formation now. However, Zhuowen was a divine array master at the second heaven of the eternal realm. It was not difficult for him to activate this ancient teleportation formation. However, just as he was about to activate the ancient teleportation formation, he suddenly found that the formation patterns around the ancient teleportation formation began to become chaotic. A terrifying and violent energy was condensing in the ancient teleportation formation, as if it would explode at any time. The teleportation formation self-destructed? Zhuowen immediately thought of something and quickly left the great shrine without thinking. However, as soon as he stepped out of the great shrine, the two ancient teleportation formations exploded. The entire great shrine was sucked in by the strange space-time turbulence, and then disappeared without a trace, leaving only an empty space. Zhuowen looked at the empty space in front of him, and his face turned ugly. Just now, if he had come out one step later, he would have been sucked into the space-time turbulence. The space-time turbulence was extremely unstable. Even if Zhuowen was strong enough now, if he was sucked into it, there was a high probability that he would die. At the same time, in the innermost part of the divine city, there was an extremely urgent bell ringing, each higher than the previous one. The strong sound waves affected everyone in the divine city, causing their hearts to beat faster and their expressions to become vigilant. Waves of powerful aura gushed out from the inner city and rushed toward this side. Around the divine city, a city-guarding formation had been activated at some point in time. An energy shield formed by complicated runes enveloped the entire divine city. You can't escape. You're dead for offending our Serene clan. The red-nosed middle-aged man forced himself to sit up and leaned against the small stone block next to him. He looked mockingly at Zhuowen, whose face did not look too good, and said sarcastically, "You really want to die?" Zhuowen sucked in a deep breath and walked towards the middle-aged man. He suddenly stabbed out with the mist-shrouded Taiyu sacred sword, aiming for the middle-aged man's neck. Sensing the intense killing intent in Zhuowen's eyes, the middle-aged man panicked. However, just as the demonic sword was about to hit the middle-aged man, a divine spear suddenly appeared out of nowhere and blocked the demonic sword. Zhuowen couldn't help but take a few steps back. He narrowed his eyes and looked in the direction of the inner city. Over there, an old man was rapidly flying over, and this divine spear was thrown over by this old man. The second clan leader is here. Kid, are you still not going to surrender? When the red-nosed middle-aged man saw the old man flying over, his eyes were filled with joy as if he had survived a calamity. He looked at Zhuo and once again regained his previous arrogance. Whoosh! The old man landed in front of the red-nosed middle-aged man. His skinny right hand grabbed the handle of the divine spear that was stuck in the ground. With a slight force, he pulled the divine spear out and held it upside down in his hand. Who are you? Why are you causing trouble in my Ran divine city? The old man's expression was calm. He stared coldly at Zhuo and asked coldly, Whoosh, whoosh. At the same time, another 5 experts surrounded Zhuo and blocked off all of Zhuo's escape routes. Behind them, there were hundreds of elite cultivator troops. They were arranged in a complicated formation and stared at Zhuo covetously. To Zhuo's surprise, the second clan leader that the middle-aged man spoke of was not weak. He had already reached the peak of the cosmic avatar realm. However, the sense of danger that the old man gave him was not as strong as the sense of danger that the handsome girl and the old man gave him. This old man should have just broken through to the peak of the cosmic avatar realm and had not completely stabilized his realm. Otherwise, his aura would not be so unstable. Just as Zhuo had guessed, the second clan leader of the Ran clan had indeed just broken through and had been in seclusion in the depths of the inner city. The reason why he came out of seclusion was naturally because of the bell just now. This bell would only ring when the divine city was in a life-and-death situation. Therefore, the old man did not care about the instability of his realm and immediately came out of seclusion. However, to the old man's displeasure, after he came out, he only saw Zhuo alone. There were no cultivator armies from other high-level realms invading. This made the old man look coldly at the red-nosed middle-aged man. He knew that this person had lied. Causing trouble in your Ran divine city? Zhuo shook his head and said disdainfully, As you can see, my cultivation is not high. Do you think I have the ability to cause trouble in your Ran divine city? The second clan leader also realized that something was wrong. He turned to look at the middle-aged man and asked, Wei, what's going on? If you don't give me a satisfactory answer, I will punish you according to the rules of the clan. The red-nosed man named Wei was so scared that his whole body trembled. He hurriedly said, Second clan leader, don't be deceived by this person. He hid his cultivation. Just now, he defeated me in a few moves. If you hadn't arrived, I would have died. Also, this person contradicted the great clan leader. We advised him to restrain himself, but he did not want face and became more and more arrogant. The great clan leader did not remember the mistakes of a lowly person and ignored him. Instead, he followed Lord Zilong to Zixian's sacred city. After the great clan leader left, this person became more and more arrogant and kept insulting our Ran clan. What's more, he even said that the ancient teleportation array of our Ran divine city was trash. He actually destroyed the ancient teleportation array and the great shrine in front of us. I wanted to stop him, but I was seriously injured by him. Second clan leader, this person is not here to cause trouble. Could it be that he is here to help us? The second clan leader frowned. He turned to look at the other guards and said, What Wei said is true. That is indeed the case. What Lord Chen said is true. Yes, this person is a demonic cultivator. His actions are indeed too domineering. Lord Chen tried to persuade him, but he directly attacked. It's too hateful. Many guards said the same thing and pushed all the blame to Zhuo. You don't put our Ran clan in your eyes at all? Your courage is commendable. You even destroyed the great shrine and the ancient teleportation array. Your sins will not be repaid even with death. Hurry up and surrender. The second clan leader shouted coldly at Zhuo. Zhuo shook his head and said, If I say that what Wei and the others said is nonsense, and that not only do I have no intention of causing trouble in your Sure-Ran Divine City, but that the great shrine and the ancient teleportation array were destroyed by Chen Wei himself. Would you believe me? According to what you said, all of this is Chen Wei's fault and has nothing to do with you. Young man, if you want to make up a reason, you have to make up a reliable one. You are too lame. The second clan leader shook his head and said contemptuously. Sigh, as expected, your Sure-Ran clan is the same. Why am I talking so much nonsense with you? Since you insist on forcing me, then I will cause trouble in your Sure-Ran Divine City today. Zhuowen looked at Chen Wei, who was standing behind the second clan leader and laughing at his misfortune, and couldn't help but shake his head. He didn't explain anymore. Instead, he used his actions to tell everyone in the Sure-Ran clan that he, Zhuowen, was not someone to be trifled with. XDW8. Chapter 43-31. Swoosh. Zhuowen took a step forward, and the billowing demonic aura swept out in all directions like a tidal wave, while the scarlet in his eyes became more and more intense, making it difficult to look at him directly. Zhuowen's speed was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, he bypassed the 5 experts surrounding him and swept toward Chen Wei. While this person was full of nonsense and had been targeting him from the beginning, Zhuowen naturally wanted to get rid of this person first. How dare you! The second leader of the Ran clan shouted coldly, and his right hand blasted out into the void, revealing a huge arm of Dharma power. The rolling Dharma power spread out and rushed into the sky, as if it had the tendency to burn the sky. Zhuowen held the sword in his right hand and slashed out fiercely. The pitch-black demonic sword flashed with a strange light and collided with the arm of the Dharma power. None terrifying ripples spread out from between the two of them, and then Zhuowen could not help but retreat dozens of steps, and the arm of the second leader was also bombarded by the demonic sword and was pushed back a distance. You actually blocked it. It seems that Chen Wei was right. You have indeed concealed your cultivation. The second leader exclaimed in surprise, and his face became much more serious. He did not dare to be careless. He completely released his Dharma power and strode toward Zhuowen. The second leader's Dharma power was 500 feet tall, and its whole body was a human figure formed by many giant pillar-like divine spears. None. Whether it was the hands, the feet, or the body, they were all pieced together by many thick divine spears, and the huge head was shrouded in a solid steel mask, and its specific appearance could not be seen clearly. None. After Zhuowen was pushed back by the second leader, he was immediately surrounded by 5 experts who had been ready for a long time. The 5 of them also released their respective cosmic Dharma powers. 5. The 5 huge Dharma powers were divided into 5 directions, surrounding Zhuowen layer by layer. The cultivation of these 5 people was uneven. Among them, 2 were in the early cosmic Dharma powers, 2 were in the middle cosmic Dharma powers, and the last one was in the late cosmic Dharma powers. You'd better surrender, you bastard. My Sure-Ran clan's experts have all come out, and this place is also Sure-Ran Divine City. You already can't escape even if you have wings. With the support of 2 of his men, Chen Wei retreated to a safe distance. Looking at the surrounded Zhuowen, he couldn't help but gloat loudly. Zhuowen ignored Chen Wei's mockery and ridicule. Instead, he recalled the confrontation with the 2 clan masters. Just now, he hadn't used his full strength. It was just a casual strike of the sword, but he was on par with the 2 masters at the peak of the Dharma plane of the universe. If it was in the past, he would definitely be at a disadvantage in the confrontation just now, but it was different now. Look indeed, the limitless Devil Scripture's demonic die ability had greatly increased his battle prowess. While and this was only the first level of the limitless Devil Scripture. If he cultivated to the 2nd, 3rd, or even 4th level, wouldn't the effects of his demonic corruption be even more astonishing? While moreover, Mo Ran did not just increase his battle prowess. His movement, senses of the soul, and even the Taiyu sacred sword in his hand had all been greatly enhanced. It could be said that the enhancement covered all aspects. The 5 experts controlled the huge Dharma Laksana and launched a fierce attack on Zhuowen, who was surrounded in the middle. Just nice, I'll use you guys to test my spiritual sword essence in the state of demonic dye. Zhuowen raised his head. The red light in his eyes suddenly blazed like a knife. He stared at the 5 terrifying Dharma Laksana attacks that were getting closer and closer, and the corners of his mouth lifted into a devilish smile. A strange, blood-red light suddenly surged from between his eyebrows. The bright red light flashed and disappeared. 5 scarlet spiritual sword essences appeared around Zhuowen. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 5 scarlet spiritual sword essences shot out in 5 different directions, piercing into the palms of the 5 Dharma Laksana. The 5 experts, who were originally unconcerned, suddenly changed their expressions when their Dharma Laksana's arms came into contact with the spiritual sword essences. Only the 5 spiritual sword essences suddenly ignited with a strange scarlet flame. Only scarlet, the scarlet flame was like a spark that could start a prairie fire. As soon as it came into contact with the Dharma Laksana's arms, it spread rapidly, setting off a terrifying sea of scarlet fire. It actually suppressed and covered the Dharma Laksana on the surface of the Dharma Laksana's arms. Scarlet, the scarlet flame was extremely domineering. Once it was ignited, it spread rapidly and completely covered the 5 Dharma Laksana. Then, it quickly nibbled away at the energy of the cosmic Laksana. 5 of the 5 cosmic Laksana, 4 were immediately engulfed by the scarlet flame. The scarlet spiritual sword essences hidden in the depths of the scarlet flame shot out like poisonous snakes, piercing the practitioners inside the Dharma Laksana. 5 in the blink of an eye, 4 of the 5 experts had fallen. The last expert had the strongest cultivation. He was at the late cosmic Laksana level, but he was barely holding on. Zhuowen's gaze fell on the last advanced cosmic Dharma adept. With a pinch of his right hand, the other 4 sword essences of the soul suddenly turned in midair and blasted towards the last advanced cosmic Dharma adept. Poof! Poof! Finally, the expert could not withstand the combined attack of the 5 spiritual sword essences. He spat out a mouthful of blood and involuntarily knelt on the ground. While the Dharma Laksana that covered the surface of his body finally could not hold on and collapsed with a loud bang. While he was sick, take his life. Zhuowen swept out like a ghost and appeared in front of the expert. He raised his sword and chopped off a head. In less than 3 breaths of time, the 5 most elite experts of the Serene clan were killed by Zhuowen. This result completely shocked all the cultivators in the area. You're courting death. How dare you kill the people of the Serene clan? The second leader had just arrived when he saw the 5 people killed. He was so angry that his eyes turned red. He held the spear in his right hand and stabbed it toward Zhuowen's forehead. Zhuowen leaped up and dodged the giant divine spear of the second leader's Dharma Laksana. He stood by the side and looked coldly at the second leader. Are you saying that only the people of the Serene clan are allowed to kill me, but I'm not allowed to kill the people of the Serene clan? What a joke! The second leader stared at Zhuowen and asked in a low voice, "Who are you?" The second leader finally calmed down. Zhuowen's strength was so strong that he knew that he was definitely not a nobody. Therefore, he finally opened his mouth to ask, "I'm just a passerby. I've said it before, I'm only here to use your ancient teleportation array. But you've provoked me time and time again, and you've even said that you want to punish me for my crimes. Do you really think that no one can punish the Serene Divine City?" Zhuowen said slowly. His right hand pointed at the void, and a huge Qian Kuan world appeared in the void behind him. This Qian Kuan world was shrouded in thick demonic fog. Vaguely, one could see that this Qian Kuan world had a total of 9 levels, and each level was surging with extremely terrifying calamity energy. Zhuowen was surprised to find that under the Qian Kuan state, the calamity in his Qian Kuan world was also dyed with a strange red light. The red light was demonic and fierce, and under the effect of the red light, the calamity on each level became more powerful and terrifying. Chapter 43-32. Universe World? This guy didn't hide his cultivation. Is he really in the Great Tribulation of Universe? The two clan masters looked at the huge world that appeared behind Zhuowen and were completely dumbfounded. During the battle, he had always thought that Zhuowen should also be an expert of the universe. Now that Zhuowen had exposed his universe world, the two clan masters were really terrified. He had never seen such an abnormal cultivator of the Great Tribulation of Universe in all his years of cultivation. There's something wrong with his universe world. There are actually 9 levels? Under careful observation, the clan master suddenly found that Zhuowen's universe world was very different. There were actually 9 levels of the world, and each level of the world had an unusual tribulation. Not to mention the aura of the turbulent tribulation energy in the 9th level of the world, it made his heart skip a beat. While the two clan masters were shocked by Zhuowen's strange universe world, Zhuowen's movements were as smooth as flowing water, opening the first 6 levels of the universe world. Fire, ice, blood lightning, black lightning, silver white and fiery red corrosive flood, and countless divine mountains with dense golden patterns. 6 terrifying and powerful tribulations blasted out from the universe world. Boom, boom, boom. The 6 tribulations swarmed over and smashed onto the two clan masters. The clan master roared angrily. On the huge body of the Dharma idol, huge divine spears shot out. Like a sea of spears, they arranged into an impenetrable spear barrier in front of the two clan masters. But this unusually strong spear barrier collapsed the moment it came into contact with the 6 tribulations. The two clan masters' pupils shrank. He obviously didn't expect the power of these 6 tribulations to be so terrifying. The spear barrier he set up couldn't withstand a single blow. But the two clan masters didn't panic. Although the power of these 6 tribulations was beyond his expectations, it was still within his range of tolerance. He formed a seal with both hands. On the back of the huge Dharma idol, a 7-colored divine spear suddenly swept out and was held in his palm. Boom, boom. The two clan masters' expression was calm. Holding the 7-colored divine spear, they blasted out as fast as lightning. The 7-colored spear intent spread out in all directions like ripples. I didn't think that the second clan leader would bring out the 7 extreme spears. Is this kid really so difficult to deal with? Under the support of his subordinates, Wei looked at the two clan leaders who were holding the rainbow divine spear and resisting the 6 types of calamities. 7. The extreme spear was the strongest attack of the two venerables. They would only use it when they encountered a truly dangerous opponent. Now moreover, to deal with a mere Zhuowen, he actually used the 7 extreme spear. At this moment, Chen Wei suddenly realized that he might have provoked someone he shouldn't have. It couldn't be. With the two clan masters attacking, how could he possibly survive? He definitely won't be a match for the second clan leader. Chen Wei thought to himself as he stared at the battle in the distance. Boom! Deng, the second clan leader, wielded the 7 extreme spear. After destroying the final calamity of the endless divine mountain, his face became slightly pale. The 7 extreme spear was extremely powerful, but it also consumed a lot of energy. Just now, he had used his full strength, and it had consumed more than half of his energy. Whoosh! The terrifying sound of something breaking through the air could be heard as the scarlet-eyed Zhuowen rushed over at an unimaginable speed. His right hand tightly gripped the Taiyu sacred sword, which was surging with demonic energy. As he approached the second clan leader, he unleashed a spell. Heavenly line of earth. The sword slashed out, and the pitch-black sword energy pierced through heaven and earth, dyeing the day into darkness and the earth into black soil. This sword energy was terrifyingly dark, and its demonic nature was frightening. The clan leader's face completely changed. He gritted his teeth, raised the 7 Extremes spear, and stabbed out. The 7-colored spear tip suddenly spun out and stabbed fiercely at the pitch-black sword energy. Whoosh! A terrifying sound shook the heavens and the earth. The second clan leader's eyes narrowed into needles. With a muffled groan, he couldn't help but take a few steps back, his face even paler. However, the 2 clan leaders were indeed at the pinnacle of the Dharma plane of the universe. Although they had just stepped into this realm and hadn't completely stabilized, their strength was not to be underestimated. Zhua Wen's spell, with the support of demonic dye, was comparable to the attack of an ordinary pinnacle of the Dharma plane of the universe. Sword shakes the 9 heavens. Zhuowen sneered. His hands didn't stop moving, and he used another attack spell. Endless black sword energy swept out, and it split into 3 black sword energy storms that reached the heavens and the earth. The second clan leader roared. The huge Dharma plane waved the 7 Extremes spear, and the spear light blocked the black sword energy storms. But unfortunately, the second clan leader was only able to defeat 2 of the sword energy storms. He was hit by the third one, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Life in the morning, death in the evening. Wen raised the Taiyu sacred sword in his hand again, and used the third spell. A dazzling and demonic sword light flashed out, traversing through the void. At this moment, Ran's divine city was affected by the gloominess of this sword light and the sadness of life in the morning and death in the evening. Everyone fell into a state of grief. Under the influence of this sword light, the surrounding time and space stopped. Everyone's eyes were only left with this stunning and demonic sword light. Their emotions were completely affected by the sadness. Whoosh! Whoosh! The sound of cloth tearing resounded in everyone's ears. Then, everyone awoke from their sorrowful state. Bang! Ran. After that, everyone in the divine city was shocked to find that the huge Dharma idol formed by the divine spears was kneeling on the ground. The huge Dharma idol's body gradually dimmed and finally collapsed. Ran in the Ran clan, the strongest person who was second only to the clan leader, fell to the ground in a sorry state. His body was covered in blood, and he couldn't get up with difficulty. Defeated? The second clan leader was defeated? This. Chen Wei looked at the miserable old man covered in blood. He almost fell to the ground, and his body trembled with fear. The huge Ran divine city fell into an unprecedented silence. The Ran clan had sent out a total of 5 Dharma plane of the universe, and the second clan leader, who was at the pinnacle of the Dharma plane of the universe, to besiege this young demonic cultivator. The crushing that everyone expected did not happen. Instead, the 5 Dharma plane of the universe were killed, and the honorable second clan leader was defeated and was on the verge of death. In the Ran clan, other than the clan leader, all the high-level experts were either killed or defeated by Zhuowen. Is there anyone else who wants to convict me and take me down? Zhuowen looked around and his cold gaze landed on Chen Wei, who was trembling in the distance, as he enunciated each word clearly. The Ran clan cultivator army did not dare to look directly at Zhuowen. They put down the weapons in their hands and knelt on the ground, trembling. A bunch of motley crew. Zhuowen shook his head. The Ran clan was really hopeless. If the upper beam was not straight, the lower beam would be crooked. They were rotten inside and out. The clansmen did not have the concept of clansmen at all. In the face of a strong enemy, they did not have the thought of sacrificing themselves for their clansmen. This kind of clan's decline was only a matter of time. Plop! Chen Wei was so scared that he knelt on the ground and then quickly crawled to Zhuowen on his knees. In the process of crawling, he kept kowtowing and apologizing. Sir, I have eyes but did not recognize Mount Tai. I have wronged you. Please spare my life. It's all my fault. I am the one who destroyed the great temple and the ancient transmission array. I am also the one who slandered you and accused you without permission. Sir, you can punish me however you want, but please spare my life." The two clan leaders widened their eyes and looked at Chen Wei in disbelief. It turned out that all of this was caused by this bastard Chen Wei. They had really wronged this young demonic cultivator. Chapter 43-33. Chen Wei, you bastard who deceived your master and destroyed your ancestors, so it was all your doing. Not only did you deceive this lord, but you also hid so many facts from your clan. You really deserve to die. The second clan master clutched his violently heaving chest and shouted at Chen Wei, who was kneeling in front of Zhuowen. At this moment, the second clan master really wanted to kill Chen Wei. It was fine that Chen Wei provoked other nameless pawns, but with the power of the Serene clan, they could naturally deal with it without anyone knowing. But Chen Wei should not have provoked such a terrifying fiend like Zhuowen, which brought a huge disaster to the Serene clan. Chen Wei raised his head, and when he was about to speak again, his face suddenly changed, and his eyes became unfocused. Puff! Bang! Chen Wei fell headfirst to the ground. There was a ghastly bloody hole at the back of his head. Blood gushed out from the bloody hole, and Chen Wei twitched for a while before he completely lost his breath. Zhuowen's eyes were cold, and he looked indifferently at the second clan master, who slowly lowered his right hand. Fong, just now, it was the second clan master who made a move, piercing Chen Wei's forehead and annihilating the latter's divine soul. Too naturally, the clan master felt Zhuowen's cold gaze, and his body trembled. He put on a fawning smile and said, "Lord, it's all Chen Wei's fault. He misled us. All of this is actually a misunderstanding. How about this? On behalf of the Serene clan, I apologize to you. Also, don't you want to use the ancient transmission array? We will hurry up and repair it. When the time comes, you can use our ancient transmission array for free." After the clan master finished speaking, he saw Zhuowen just staring at him without saying anything. He felt a chill in his heart and hurriedly added, "Of course, we started this, and the Serene clan will compensate you for your loss." Zhuowen sneered. With just a few words, the second clan master pushed all the blame to Chen Wei. He had already said from the beginning that he was wronged, but the second clan master saw that his cultivation was low, so he did not take it seriously and wanted to kill him indiscriminately. Now moreover, just by saying that it was all Chen Wei's fault, he wanted to clear his name. Wasn't he being too self-righteous? Chen Wei is your subordinate, and you are the temporary supreme leader of the Serene clan. Since Chen Wei is at fault, aren't you at fault as well? Zhuowen asked. To the clan master's expression changed greatly. He knew that Zhuowen wanted to get to the bottom of this matter. I am indeed in the wrong, but I was blinded by Chen Wei. I think my lord is also a person who can distinguish between right and wrong. The second clan lord still wanted to argue, but he was stopped by Zhuowen with a wave of his hand. If you commit suicide now, I can forgive the mistakes of the other members of your Serene clan. Otherwise, your Serene clan can disappear. Zhuowen waved his hand and said indifferently, "What?" The second clan leader's eyes were filled with terror, but he couldn't utter a single word. How could he possibly commit suicide in front of everyone? Second clan leader. This is the only way to protect our Serene clan. Kill yourself. That's right. For the sake of our clansmen, quickly do as this lord says. Zheng. While the second clan leader was hesitating, the surrounding members of the Serene clan began to denounce the second clan leader. And after personally witnessing Zhuowen casually killing 5 strong cosmic Dharma adepts and defeating the second clan leader, the members of the Serene clan had already lost their will to fight. Right now, they only wanted to compromise and do everything they could to please Zhuowen in order to protect themselves. I am your second clan leader. You want me to commit suicide? The second clan leader was so angry that his entire body trembled. He never thought that his clansmen would ask him to commit suicide to atone for his sins. For the continuation of our clansmen, the second clan leader can only sacrifice you. In the Divine City, a group of clansmen floated in mid-air and completely surrounded the second clan leader. Their killing intent was boiling. Juan looked at this scene in surprise. He never thought that the members of the Serene clan would not only stop dealing with him, an outsider, but also attack their second clan leader. Serene clan is truly a clan that is rotten to the point of being incurable, Juan said. One looked at the group of clansmen surrounding the second clan leader with some pity. Then, Juan saw with his own eyes that the clansmen of the Serene clan launched a joint attack and completely landed on the second clan leader. As the second clan leader's injuries were too serious, he could only passively defend. After a while, he was exhausted and completely died in the hands of his clansmen. We have personally executed the second clan leader, the sinner who offended you. Please forgive the rest of the people of the Serene clan. They were all following orders and had no choice. After executing the second clan leader, the clansmen of the Serene clan knelt on the ground and sincerely and respectfully begged for mercy. Juan waved his hand, somewhat dispirited. The behavior of the Serene clan's clansmen made him very disgusted, but he did not want to dirty his hands by killing these pathetic people. Take out the array diagram of your Serene Divine City's ancient transmission array and give it to me. Repair the ancient transmission array as soon as possible. I'm still in a hurry, Juan said lightly. When the clansmen of the Serene clan saw that Juan did not pursue the matter further, they all heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly invited Juan into the inner city of the Serene Divine City. The inner city was the most core place of the Serene Divine City, and also the residence of the upper echelons of the Serene clan. The ancient transmission array was extremely complicated. Depending on the location and direction of the transmission, the arrangement of the array patterns was also completely different. Although with Juan's array Dao level, even without relying on the array diagram, he was confident that he could figure out the pattern of the ancient transmission array of the Serene Divine City and repair it completely. But this would take a lot of time. Juan would not be foolish enough to figure out how to repair the ancient transmission array by himself. While with the array diagram and knowing the principle of the ancient transmission array of the Serene Divine City, it was naturally much easier to repair it. It only took him 3 days to completely repair the ancient transmission array of the Serene Divine City. Of course, Juan also did some tricks in this ancient transmission array. He was very clear that after Sheng returned to the Serene Divine City, he would definitely not let the matter rest. Therefore, he had to be on guard. During this period of time, the clansmen of the Serene clan could be said to be obedient to Juan and were in awe of him. Therefore, Juan could enter many forbidden areas in the inner city, including the core of the city protecting Great Array. And Juan was very considerate and strengthened the city protecting Great Array of the Serene Divine City, and also very considerately added many functions. After all this, Juan used the ancient transmission array to head to Zhixian Sacred City. Large about half a day after Juan left, the ancient transmission array of the Serene Divine City suddenly lit up with a blazing white light, and a figure was faintly discernible from the white light. Sheng returned to the Serene Divine City with a smile on his face. This time, he had some gains in the Zhixian Sacred City. As he had assisted the third saintess in confirming the identity of the person who had stolen the sacred fire seed, he was rewarded with a considerable amount of resources by the third saintess Zi Long. Yes, with these resources, Sheng was even more confident in stepping into the defying ancient starlight realm. Chapter 43-34. Not long after Sheng walked out of the ancient teleportation array, he immediately felt something strange. He couldn't help but look around the ancient teleportation array. He saw that the great temple around the ancient teleportation array was gone, and the surroundings were full of potholes. There was no sign of the solemn appearance of the divine city. It had completely turned into ruins. What in the world happened? Where are the two patriarchs? Shishing was stunned at first, then furious. He hurriedly used the communication jade token to contact the two patriarchs, but found that there was no response at all. Great Patriarch, you're back? The two guards guarding the ancient teleportation array were stunned at first, then hurriedly came to Shishing's side, kneeling on one knee on the ground and bowing respectfully. What happened to Serene Divine City? Why is it surrounded by ruins, and where are the two patriarchs? Shishing lifted the collar of a guard and asked coldly. Great Patriarch, the second patriarch has fallen. The guard hurriedly said. What? The second patriarch is dead? How is that possible? Shishing roared in disbelief. It's true, not only the second patriarch, but even the 5 core elders have fallen, and Commander Chun Wei is no longer here. The guard hurriedly restrained his mind and replied. Speak, who killed them? Shishing was almost out of anger, but his heart was full of doubts. Who was it? Who killed the second patriarch and the others during his absence? Could it be the cultivator army of another powerful higher realm? It was that young demonic cultivator. He thought that he had been treated unfairly, so he took advantage of the time when you left Serene Divine City and began to wantonly destroy our Serene Divine City. So, the second patriarch brought a group of experts to stop this person, but he didn't expect that this person hid his cultivation and killed 5 core elders in an instant. The second patriarch fought with him, but unfortunately, he was deceived by his despicable means and finally fell in his hands. Great Patriarch, you must uphold justice for us, you can't let that demonic cultivator go, he's too presumptuous. The guard hurriedly replied. Shishing calmed down, his eyes full of surprise. He didn't expect that the disaster that caused their Serene Divine City was actually the young demonic cultivator that he disdained at that time. Wasn't that demonic cultivator only at the Great Tribulation realm? Could it be that he was really a great devil who hid his cultivation? Damn it! I was careless. Do you know where that devil cultivator went? Shishing asked again. That devil cultivator is very cautious. When he used the ancient transmission array, he sent all of us away, so we don't know where he was teleported to. The guard laughed bitterly. They also had a bellyful of anger towards Zhuowen, but at that time, they were intimidated by Zhuowen's tyrannical power and did not dare to resist Zhuowen. Now that the Great Lord had returned, they naturally wanted to take revenge on Zhuowen. However, they didn't know where Zhuowen had gone. Humph! Trash! The clan master's face was very cold. Just as he was about to reprimand him, his face suddenly changed. Shishing suddenly raised his head and looked towards the eastern horizon of the Divine City. Above the clouds, a black dot was rapidly flying towards them. This dot's speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it arrived above Serene Divine City. Only then did Xing realize that the black dot was actually a black divine ship that was extremely ferocious and aggressive. It's him. The moment he saw the black divine ship, he immediately knew who this person was. Clang. Previously, he and the third holy maiden, Zi Long, were chasing the thief who stole the divine fire seed. They relied on this black divine ship to escape their pursuit. And the owner of this black divine ship was none other than Fei Pingze, whose identity had been confirmed. Here at this moment, Fei Pingze, with his hands behind his back, looked down at the people below Serene Divine City, and his gaze fell on Shishing. The great lord of the Serene clan, Shishing? Fei Pingze grinned, but his smile was full of coldness. Shishing narrowed his eyes and said indifferently, Fei Pingze, you are already wanted by the Zixian clan. How dare you appear in front of me? With your status, I'll capture you and hand you over to the Zetian clan. I'm afraid that I'll be rewarded handsomely. Fei Pengze's eyes narrowed and said in a low voice, Sure enough, you already know my identity. It seems that it was my mistake not to kill everyone on the divine ship. Fei Pengze said. Fei Pengze immediately thought of Zhuowen's divine ship that he encountered by chance some time ago. He originally wanted to destroy the divine ship and frame the owner of the divine ship. However, the owner of the divine ship was not ordinary. He could not completely eliminate him in a short time and had to give up. He was not stupid and knew that his identity had been exposed. It was most likely that the owner of the divine ship had told the third saintess Zi Long about his appearance. That was why his identity had been exposed. How dare you come to the Serene divine city, Fei Pengze? I admire your courage. Surrender now. Sure said. His bad mood eased a lot because of Fei Pengze's arrival. He shouted and summoned a huge cosmic avatar and rushed towards Fei Pengze. At the same time, he transmitted a message to the Formation Dao Masters in charge of the Great City Defensive Array in the inner city and asked them to activate the Great City Defensive Array. Whoosh! Fei Pengze waved his right hand lightly and the black divine ship flashed past like a black lightning, dodging Shi Sheng's powerful attack. Shi Sheng, I came here for two purposes. First, to confirm whether my identity was exposed. Second, to borrow the ancient transmission array of your divine city. I have already confirmed the first point. As long as you meet my second condition, I will not attack you and the Serene divine city. Fei Pengze said lightly. Just you? Ridiculous. Shi said. Shi sneered and continued to attack Fei Pengze with his huge cosmic avatar. Fei Pengze's aura was not strong. He was probably at the late cosmic avatar stage. This kind of cultivation was not much of a threat to Shi. Shi was thinking too highly of himself if he still wanted to negotiate with him. Fei Pengze dodged Shi Sheng's attack again and his face sank. If you were an expert of the inverse ancient starlight realm, I might be afraid of you. However, you are only half a step into the inverse ancient starlight realm. Do you think I am afraid of you? Today, I will let you have a taste of the power of the divine fire seed. Fei Pengze said. After Fei Pengze finished speaking, he raised his right hand and formed a complicated and strange seal. Only the black god ship beneath his feet suddenly emitted a strange clanging sound, as if some bones were dislocated. Then, almost 100 huge cannons appeared on the surface of the black god. There were many more cannons than the ones Zhuowen saw on the black god. Bang! 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 In front of Shi Sheng's shocked eyes, almost 100 cannons suddenly erupted with terrifying purple light. Beams of light that looked like death shot out directly, piercing through everything. Shi was still in shock. When he came back to his senses, almost 100 purple light beams had pierced through the body of his cosmic avatar. Bang! In an instant, his huge and dignified cosmic avatar was smashed into pieces and turned dark. Chapter 43-35. The Whole Book Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation Thump. 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 Shi Sheng's expression changed drastically as he urged his huge Dharma power to retreat. He looked at the black divine ship suspended in the air in horror. He did not expect the power of the black divine ship's cannons to be so terrifying that he was caught off guard. Fei Pengze looked at Shi Sheng's pale face as he slowly reformed his Dharma power. He smiled excitedly. Yesterday, he had just integrated the divine fire seed into the black divine ship. He knew that the power of the black divine ship would definitely evolve. However, he had not tested its power yet. Now, he was very satisfied with the power displayed by the black divine ship. Boom, boom, boom. Shi Sheng's face was slightly pale after he reformed his Dharma power. He did not dare to be careless this time. He knew that Fei Ping's cultivation was average, but the black divine ship under his feet was extraordinary. Bang! Shi Xing rushed out again. His speed had almost doubled, and he appeared behind the black divine ship in an instant. He clenched his fists and punched the black divine ship in front of him like an iron hammer. However, Shi Xing found it unbelievable that he only hit the black divine ship's afterimage. Whoosh! The terrifying sound of something breaking through the air appeared behind him. Shi Xing turned around abruptly, and his pupils shrank to the size of needles. Fei Pingze appeared behind Yi Futian on his black ship and was closing in on him at a rapid speed. The black divine ship's cannons were all suddenly retracted, and the black divine ship began to transform continuously. The steel-like parts on the surface of the black divine ship were intertwined and contracted, forming a huge black cannon at the bow of the divine ship. The black and deep cannon was dozens of feet wide, and a terrifying and shocking energy was condensed in it. The blazing energy, in a myriad of colors, quickly appeared in the cannon's muzzle and burst out. All of this happened too quickly. By the time Shi Xing reacted, the huge colorful light pillar had already appeared in front of him. Boom! Boom! Shi Xing only had time to activate all of his defensive means and passively resist the bombardment of this unprecedented giant cannon. The dazzling explosion was like a rapidly expanding balloon, rapidly expanding and instantly enveloping the entire Shi Divine City and the surrounding area of nearly 100 million miles. Countless cultivators in the Shi Divine City watched in horror as the terrifying explosion completely enveloped them. But soon they were shocked to find that their city defense array had barely withstood the terrifying explosion, and they were lucky to survive. Fei Pingze was driving the black divine ship thousands of miles in the air. He crossed his arms in front of his chest, and he stood as he watched the colorful explosion engulf Shi Xing, Shi Divine City, and the mountains, rivers, and forests for nearly 100 million miles. His eyes were. Translation was full of excitement. The black divine ship's power had once again exceeded his imagination. Translation after the black divine ship fire, the black divine fire, the divine ship fire divine fire divine fire divine fire divine fire. The fire divine fire divine fire once. As the explosion slowly subsided, Fei Pingze looked at Shi Xing, who was crawling on the ground with wounds all over his body, and the intact Shi Divine City. Translation: Shi Divine City is intact? Fei Pingze noticed that something was wrong. His eyes fell on the Shi Divine City, which had not turned into ruins as he had expected, and a trace of disbelief flashed across his eyes. The city defense array of the Shi Divine City is not ordinary. Fei Pingze looked at the great array, which was still stubbornly flashing on the surface of the Divine City, and showed a hint of interest. Although the Shi Divine City was some distance away from the core of the explosion, the terrifying shock wave of the explosion was not something an ordinary second sky of Eternal Realm Great Array could withstand. Unless the city defense array of the Shi Divine City had reached the peak of the second sky of Eternal Realm, otherwise, it would be impossible to withstand such an explosion. Interesting. The Shi Divine City, which is considered to be at the bottom of the higher realms, actually has such a powerful city defense array? It seems that Shi Xing is not completely useless. The corners of Fei Pingze's mouth curved into a meaningful arc, and then he slowly landed not far from Shi Xing. The back half of the black divine ship broke away and turned into ferocious shackles with a metallic luster, firmly binding Shi Xing. Because Shi Xing was at the core of the explosion, he had suffered most of the damage. At this moment, he was completely injured and could not condense his Dharma idol again. Originally, Shi Xing was in a daze from the explosion and had not fully woken up. Now, his body was suddenly shackled, and he could not move his limbs and neck at all. his blurred consciousness suddenly sobered up. He raised his head with difficulty and saw a pair of feet in front of him. He knew that the owner of this pair of feet was Fei Pingze. "Master Fei, I was wrong. Please spare my life." Shixing lowered his head and did not dare to look up at Fei Pingze. He humbly begged for mercy, but his heart was full of humiliation. After all, he was the great senior of the Serene clan, the highest leader of the clan. Now that he was defeated and had to humbly beg for mercy, it was really too shameful. Fei Pingze lifted Shixing and pointed at the Serene divine city in front of them, and said with a smile, "Shixing, I am very curious, what is the level of the city defense array of your Serene divine city? It can withstand the power of my 5 divine cannon." Shixing was completely awake. When he saw the intact Serene divine city following Fei Pingze's finger, he slowly opened his mouth. To be honest, he was also a little surprised. The city defense array of their Serene divine city was only at the early second sky of the Eternal Realm. With the terrifying power of the 5 divine cannon, Shixing did not think that the city defense array could hold for long before it was annihilated. But now what he saw was a fierce slap to his face. "This is the city defense array of the 3rd sky of the Eternal Realm." Shixing's eyes flashed and he suddenly began to talk nonsense. He knew that Fei Pingze was interested in his city defense array. If he catered to Fei Pingze's interest, he might have a chance of survival. Therefore, he did not dare to say that he did not know. If he really said so, he would be useless and would be killed by Fei Pingze in the end. "The city defense array of the 3rd sky of the Eternal Realm? How can your little Serene divine city have such a powerful city defense array?" Fei Pingze's face changed slightly. After all, he was not a divine array master, so he did not see that this was only the 2nd sky of the Eternal Realm. He subconsciously believed Shixing's words. "It's a long story. Although our Serene divine region is ranked last among the higher realms, it is just a facade. We are just deliberately hiding our strength. In fact, we have the support of a real expert, and this city defense array is that expert. He arranged it for us to use in a critical moment." In order to survive, Shixing began to talk nonsense in a serious manner. Fei Pingze listened carefully, and his eyes became more and more serious. From this city defense array, it could be seen that the expert Shixing mentioned was absolutely not simple. Chapter 43-36. Full Text Divine Soul Sovereign's latest chapter. "Where's that expert?" Fei Pingze asked coldly. "That lord is usually elusive, so I'm not very clear about his exact whereabouts. However, he has taken great care of our Serene clan. If he knows that the Serene clan has been exterminated, he will definitely not let this matter rest." Shixing said carefully. Shixing said, Shixing, put away your little tricks. Now, ask someone to open the Great City Barrier Array. I only want the array diagram of this Great City Barrier Array. As long as you give it to me, I'll consider letting you live," Fei Pingze said lightly. The array diagram of the Great City Barrier Array of the 3rd sky of Eternal Realm was extremely precious. Fei Pingze was naturally tempted. Shixing's heart thumped as he knew that things were not going well. He hadn't figured out why the Great City Barrier Array had suddenly become stronger. How could he know what the array diagram was? He did have the original array diagram of the Great City Barrier Array in his mansion, but it was only at the early 2nd sky of Eternal Realm. Anyone with a discerning eye could see it, but Shixing also knew that in order to survive, he could only go all the way. According to Fei Pingze's instructions, Shixing began to send a message to the person in charge of Serene Divine City, ordering them to open the Great City Barrier Array first. But soon, Shixing received a message that left him dumbfounded. The person in charge of Serene Divine City actually asked him to leave and not implicate the people in the city. I'm your great clan master. You don't listen to my orders? Why don't you open the great city barrier array? Shi Xing was flustered and exasperated. He gave up using the communication jade token and shouted at the gate of Shi Ran Divine City in front of him. Great clan master! You'll always be our great clan master, so you have to shoulder the task of protecting us. For our own good, you'd better die. Don't implicate our people. This is what you taught us in the past. In order to survive, we can abandon anything and feelings. Now we are doing what you taught us before. So, please don't implicate us. Go die by yourself. In Shi Ran Divine City, some of the clansmen replied that they wanted Shi Xing to die, but they refused to open the Grand Formation. The people in Shi Ran Divine City had also discovered the extraordinariness of the Grand Formation. Therefore, they would rather die than open the Grand Formation. Even if the Grand Patriarch died, it didn't matter. Shi Xing was completely flabbergasted. He had never imagined that his fellow clan members would be so cold and emotionless. They would even give up on him, the great clan sovereign. Shi Xing, your clan is really hopeless. You don't even care about your fellow clansmen. You're so selfish. No wonder your Shi Ran domain is getting worse every year. Fei Pengze laughed mockingly. Shi Xing, on the other hand, did not seem to notice. He continued to shout at the God City, even playing the emotional card. Unfortunately, in the Divine City, no one replied to him. They were all extremely cold. Shi Xing was in despair. He knew that he had lost his value. Fei Pengze would never let him live. Sure enough, he found Fei Pengze looking at him coldly. A trace of killing intent burst out from Fei Pengze's eyes. Shi Xing, it seems that you're useless. In that case, I'll just force my way in. Since your clansmen want you to die so much, then die. Fei Pengze said slowly. Then, he pointed a sword finger at Shi Xing's glabella. Shi Xing struggled to escape, but unfortunately, his whole body was bound. He could only watch the sword finger fall on his glabella. He could clearly feel a destructive force sinking into the depths of his glabella. It began to erupt constantly, destroying his spirit. After Shi Xing's breath was completely gone, Fei Pengze's eyes fell on Shi Ran Divine City again. Only then did he notice that the Grand Formation on the surface of Shi Ran Divine City was a little chaotic and dim. Huh? Just now, my 5 God Cannon caused a lot of damage to the Grand Formation. This shouldn't be a 3rd Heavenly Layer Eternal Realm Grand Formation, but a peak 2nd Heavenly Layer Eternal Realm Grand Formation. Fei Pengze muttered to himself. He knew very well that if this was really a 3rd Heavenly Layer Eternal Realm Grand Formation, the 5 God Cannon couldn't have caused such great damage. I was almost fooled by Shi Xing. Since it's not a 3rd Heavenly Layer Eternal Realm Grand Formation, I can blast it to pieces with a few more shots of the 5 God Cannon. Fei Pengze sneered. He took back the ferocious shackles on Shi Xing's corpse and merged into the Black Divine Ship. Just as he was about to drive the Black Divine Ship into the sky and bombard Shi Ran Divine City, a cold voice suddenly came from the city. The Shi Ran clan is indeed rotten to the core. You're all just a bunch of selfish, pathetic people with no bottom line. Rather than living in this world, it's better to die now. The cold voice was loud and clear. As soon as he finished speaking, the Grand Formation around Shi Ran Divine City suddenly became chaotic. Then, the Grand Formation exploded with a loud bang. Self-destruct. Fei Pengze's face changed dramatically. He only had time to turn the Black Divine Ship into a sphere and wrap his whole body in it. The terrible explosion spread over. The self-destruction of a 2nd Heavenly Layer Eternal Realm Grand Formation was so powerful that it even exceeded the power of Fei Pengze's 5 God Cannon. In an instant, the Shi Ran Divine City was in chaos. All the cultivators were scrambling to escape towards the Shi Ran Divine City. Some powerful cultivators even thought that the cultivators in front of them were too slow and directly killed the clan members in front of them, just for themselves. They only had one more second to run away. The ugliness among the clansmen of the Serene clan was forced to show at this moment. However, no one could escape from the city. They were all turned into powder in the explosion. When the explosion finally subsided, the Serene divine city had already disappeared, leaving only a terrifying and huge abyss. Next to the abyss, a dark ball rolled slowly and landed on a rock on one side. The black ball began to unfold, and a sorry figure climbed out of it. Poochie! Fapingza spat out a mouthful of blood, his face as pale as paper. Who controlled the grand formation of Serene divine city? Fortunately, I reacted fast enough. Otherwise, I would have been killed by the explosion. Thinking of the dangerous situation just now, Fapingza still had lingering fear. Without the protection of the Black God, he would never have survived. It's not good to stay here for a long time. Let's get out of here first. Fapingza struggled to get up. The black ball turned into a black divine ship and carried him away. At the same time, in a secluded alley in the distant Zixien sacred city, a young demonic cultivator with red eyes was holding a short array flag in his right hand. Countless cracks appeared on the surface of this array flag. Finally, with a cracking sound, it turned into fine powder and scattered down from the air, falling at his feet. Chapter 43-37. Fapingza's black divine ship is really extraordinary. It could even withstand the self-destruction of a second heaven eternal realm array. Zhuowen muttered to himself as he silently looked at the array flags that had been shattered into powder at his feet. When he left Serene Divine City, he had also added a surveillance array to the Great City Barrier Array. Therefore, Zhuowen was able to see everything that happened in Serene Divine City. Especially after watching the battle between Fapingza and Shixing, Zhuowen was shocked. The power of Fapingza's Black God was beyond his expectations. With the Black God, he could defeat Shixing, who was half a step into the inverse ancient starlight realm. Is the sacred fire seed really so magical? It can make Fapingza's black divine ship reach such a powerful power. Fapingza's words in Serene Divine City echoed in his mind, which mentioned that his Black God was able to transform because of the sacred fire seed. This made Zhuowen more and more curious about the so-called sacred fire seed. Since the sacred fire seed could make Fapingza's black divine ship undergo such a powerful transformation, could it also be beneficial to the Taiyu sacred sword? Clang! However, this thought only flashed through Zhuowen's mind. From the attitude of the third saintess Zi Long towards the sacred fire seed, it was obvious that the sacred fire seed was extremely important to the Zixien clan. While it was hard to say whether the Zixien clan still had other sacred fire seed, Zixien Sacred City was extremely vast, more than 10 times larger than Nuwa City of the Nuwa clan. Sacred in the city, towering buildings were arranged in rows. At a glance, it was enough to dazzle the eyes. After Zhuowen walked out of the secluded alley, he looked at the bustling sacred city in confusion. Although he had done some homework before coming to Zixien Sacred City, he only knew the methods and ways to enter Zixien Sacred City. However, Zhuowen was completely clueless about the geographical map of Zixien Sacred City and the location of the divine ship that could travel to the supreme domain. Standing on the edge of the street, Zhuowen, with a confused look in his eyes, was in sharp contrast to the crowd around him. Zhuowen wanted to ask a passerby, but suddenly a timid woman's voice came from behind. "Sir, are you not familiar with Zixien Sacred City?" Zhuowen heard this. He turned around and saw a pure woman with big eyes standing behind him. She had a shy look on her face. Female, her cultivation was not high, about the early stage of the universe tribulation. She, noticing that Zhuowen was sizing her up, she blushed and quickly lowered her head. Clasping her hands together, she timidly said, "Sir, if you don't mind, you can hire me to be your guide. I've already stayed in Zhixian Sacred City for several hundred years and know every place in Zhixian Sacred City like the back of my hand." When she spoke up to hear, the woman was afraid that Zhuowen wouldn't want her, and she said with tears in her eyes, "My lord, please hire me. My younger brother has yet to recover from his injuries, and he really needs money for treatment. As long as you hire me, I'll definitely do my best to work for you." When looked at the pure woman in front of him silently, his expression calm as water, and said coolly, "Before hiring you, I want to ask you first. Do you know where the divine ship of Zhixian Sacred City is?" When indeed knew nothing about the divine ship of Zhixian Sacred City. Hiring this woman as a guide was fine. But intuitively, he felt that there was something wrong with this woman. As for what the problem was, he could not tell. "Divine ship? You want to go to the Supreme Realm?" The pure woman's expression changed slightly. "Yes, my purpose of coming to Zhixian Sacred City is for the divine ship." "Why? Is there a problem?" Zhuowen said coolly. The pure woman hurriedly waved her hand and said with a smile, "No. Of course there's no problem. It's just that not everyone can sit on the divine ship in Zhixian Sacred City. The divine ship's ticket can't be bought with money. The divine ship's ticket is basically in the hands of the Zhixian clan. Only important figures who have a relationship with the Zhixian clan's upper echelons can get a ticket. Without this layer of relationship, I'm afraid that it will be a little difficult to get a ticket." When frowned slightly. He did not expect that this divine ship's ticket could not be bought with money. One had to know that Zhuowen's current wealth was extremely rich. No matter how expensive that ship ticket was, he could basically afford it. But the problem now was that this ship ticket could not be bought with money. This made Zhuowen somewhat helpless. As for having a relationship with the Zhixian clan's upper echelons, he really had a relationship with the third holy daughter, Zilong. But it was not a good relationship, but a bad relationship. "My lord, I know a secret black market. There will occasionally be divine ship tickets circulating there. My lord, you can go there and try your luck," the pure woman suddenly suggested to Zhuowen. When took a deep look at the pure woman, nodded, and said indifferently, "Then take me there. If you can really find a ticket for the divine warship in the black market, I will give you an extra handsome reward." Qingyi said. The pure woman revealed a look of surprise and quickly nodded. "Thank you, my lord. My name is Yenmeng. I'll take you to the black market now." Zhuowen did not say anything. He just nodded and silently followed behind the pure woman. After the pure woman took Zhuowen through 7 or 8 blocks, Zhuowen found that the surroundings suddenly became much quieter and more deserted. Zhuowen looked around and found that this was a dilapidated block. It was completely different from the blocks they had walked through before. Compared to the other blocks, this block was more like a slum. The surrounding cultivators were scattered, and their auras were obscure and weak. Their cultivations were all below the great tribulation of heaven and earth. Zhuowen looked around, but his brows furrowed slightly. His divine sense was far sharper than the cultivators of the great tribulation of heaven and earth. Even many universe Dharma powerhouses might not be able to compare. He had felt that something was wrong the moment he entered this dilapidated block. In the shadows of this dilapidated block, he vaguely felt a powerful aura. Only these auras were hidden. If not for Zhuowen's divine sense being different from ordinary people, he might not have been able to detect these hidden auras. "My lord, the entrance to the black market is in the hall in front of us." The pure woman saw Zhuowen suddenly slow down and turned to look at Zhuowen in confusion. She pointed at an ancient and dilapidated stone hall at the end of the block. The surface of this stone hall was mottled with the traces of time. It should have been pure white marble, but because of time or other factors, it was covered with dense black spots, like the spots on a dead person's face. Zhuowen looked deeply at Yan Meng and said expressionlessly, "Continue leading the way." Yan Meng's expression was normal as she continued to lead the way. Very soon, the two of them arrived at the entrance of the ancient hall at the end of the block. The moment he stepped into the ancient hall, Zhuowen's eyes flashed with an intense cold light. In that instant, he could clearly feel that there were several powerful auras filled with malice in the depths of the hall. Around the hall, there were destructive fluctuations from the attack array. It was obvious that someone had deliberately set up a powerful attack array in the hall. Chapter 43-38. Have we reached the entrance to the black market? After walking for another quarter of an hour in the pitch-black hall, Yan Meng stopped. Her shoulders suddenly trembled as she laughed out loud. Yan Meng slowly turned around. The pitiful and pure look in her big eyes had long since disappeared. Instead, they were replaced by ridicule, contempt, and complacency. "My lord, you are really innocent. You are actually so easy to fool. It can be said that you are the stupidest idiot I have ever met." Yan Meng laughed. Yan Meng laughed without a care for her image, as she continued to ridicule and belittle Zhuowen. Zhuowen frowned and pretended to be puzzled as he asked, "What do you mean?" Yan Meng sneered and didn't answer Zhuowen's question. Instead, she stretched out her slender hands and gently clapped. The crisp and melodious sound of a slap resounded leisurely in the pitch-black hall. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 3 sounds of wind breaking could be heard from the depths of the hall. Behind Yan Meng, 3 men had appeared at some point. Their auras were stronger than Yan Meng's and had reached the late stage of the universe tribulation. "Hand over all your belongings. I can consider sparing your life and only crippling your cultivation." Yan Meng covered her mouth and laughed mockingly. Under Yan Meng's signal, the 3 men surrounded Zhuowen in a triangular formation. Robbery?" Zhuowen asked with a frown. "Did you only realize now?" Yan Meng continued to mock and ridicule him. Zhuowen's expression was calm as he said indifferently, "In other words, the black market and the divine worship tickets you told me about were fake. Was it to deceive me?" Yan Meng was startled. She didn't expect that this young devil cultivator would actually care about the black market and the divine worship ticket. Was this guy not afraid of death? That wasn't the case. Within Purple Jade Holy City, there was indeed a mysterious black market. And the divine worship tickets occasionally circulate in the black market. I have only entered the black market once. If I wasn't smart enough, I might have died there. A place like the black market is not a place that a low-level universe tribulation cultivator like me can casually enter. Even cosmic dharma adepts may not be completely safe in such a place. When they arrived at the black market, Yan Meng felt as if she was in a nightmare. Her beautiful eyes flickered with fear. "So you've been to the black market. Very good, then I can consider sparing your life first," Zhuowen said indifferently. "What a joke. Are you courting death? Merely a middle-stage universe Great Tribulation fellow also dares to be so arrogant." Yan Meng laughed. Zhuowen's words just now sounded like a joke to her. "Hee. Brat who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, you'd better die." Of the 3 people surrounding Zhuowen, the slightly plump man in front of Zhuowen smiled sinisterly and immediately brought out his own universe world. While the other 2 didn't dare to be careless either. They both took out their own universal world. The terrifying aura of the great universal calamity surged out like furious thunder. It was terrifying and shocking. The corner of his mouth revealed an evil smile. A demonic red light flickered in the depths of his eyes. An ink-like devil chi surged out from his body and instantly enveloped the 3 people around him. "What is this? My power. My power is being weakened, my soul." Within the rolling devil fog, the voices of the 3 people became panicked, and then they let out mournful screams. Smoke, the complacent expression on Meng's face completely froze. Her pupils were tightly locked as she looked at the rolling devil fog. Those screams were like sharp needles piercing into her heart, causing her heart to sink to the bottom. Miserable, the cries quickly disappeared, and the demonic fog, which was as thick as mud, also gradually receded. Juoan was still standing in place, as if he hadn't moved at all. Beside him stood 3 figures stiffly. Smoke. When she looked over, she was shocked to discover that these 3 figures were her companions. Only it was these 3 people whose faces were wooden, and their eyes flickered with a strange red light, causing Yen Meng to feel exceptionally unfamiliar and terrified. Smoke the Dream stumbled, wanting to retreat and escape. So. The 3 of them let out beast-like roars and suddenly rushed out, surrounding Yen Meng. I'm Yen Meng, what's wrong with you guys? Don't you even recognize me? Yen Meng fell to the ground and looked at the 3 pairs of red eyes with some fear. With the 3 companions who had always obeyed her orders looked so unfamiliar today. They are now my devil puppets. They only listened to my orders. Wen slowly walked over and coldly looked down at Yen Meng, who had fallen to the ground. Demon, the effect of the dye was truly astonishing. 3 cultivators in the late stage of the universe calamity had been turned into devil puppets by the dye in such a short period of time. This surprised Juoan. Juoan suspected that as long as it was a cultivator below the cosmic Dharma stage, his demonic dye had a very high success rate of turning the enemy into a devil puppet. Yen Meng sat on the ground. She first looked at her 3 companions who had already lost their minds, and then looked at Juoan, who had a cold gaze. She knew that this time, he had mentioned the hard board. My lord, Yen Meng was possessed and actually had evil intentions towards you. Please forgive Yen Meng's mistake. Yen Meng lowered her head and begged. Cut the crap, take me to the black market. If you dare to deceive me this time, I don't mind making you never see the sun tomorrow. Juoan said indifferently. Yen Meng nodded and said, Yes, my lord. Don't worry, Yen Meng will definitely not play any tricks this time. After seeing Juoan's strange methods, Yen Meng did not dare to play any tricks. This time, she was much more obedient. Just as Juoan had guessed, the black market was not in the old street that Yen Meng had brought him to. This street was actually one of Misty Dream's old lair. They would often bring cultivators who had just arrived in Purple Jade Holy City with ordinary strength here, and then a group of people would rob them. If necessary, they would even kill them to silence them and destroy their corpses. The black market was located in the southeast of Zhixian Holy City. There was a huge underground area there. Of course, this underground area was hidden under the residential area. The underground area was like an underground city, with rows upon rows of buildings and a lot of people. This underground city was commonly known as the black market. The black market was actually illegal in the Zhixian Holy City. However, it had never been investigated. It was said that there was a certain holy maiden behind it as a backer. Until as for which holy maiden it was unknown at the moment. The entrance to the black market was in an inconspicuous building. In the depths of this building, there was a small teleportation array. This teleportation array led directly to the underground black market. I didn't expect you to dare to come to the black market again. You almost died last time. Didn't you learn your lesson? Let me remind you that Lord also came to the black market today. You'd better pray that you're lucky and don't meet him. At the entrance of the building, a tall and thin guard took the token from Yen Meng. After confirming it, he returned it to Yen Meng and said jokingly, You don't have to worry about this. Yen Meng's face was slightly pale. After taking the token, she led Juoan and the 3 devil puppets into the building. Chapter 4339. The one-story building was shabby on the outside, but the decoration inside was enough to be described as magnificent. Inside the building, there were compartments, and in each compartment there was a small teleportation array. Smoke. As soon as Meng, Zhuo and the others entered the building, a beautiful maid with a professional smile immediately led the 5 of them into an empty room on the left. After paying the corresponding fee, the maid activated the small teleportation array in the room. Following with a burst of white light, Zhuowen's group of 5 disappeared from the narrow room. Is this the underground black market? When Gang opened his eyes and saw a bustling street with people coming and going. Street on both sides of the street there were shops, and next to some shops there were many stalls. First sky of the eternal realm material, the skull of the 3-eyed wolf, is the main divine material for making helmet. Come and buy it, the price is fair. Our shop has a wide variety of things, whether it's materials for making divine artifacts, divine medicines for refining divine pills, formation discs, secret medicines, and so on. We have everything you need. Come and take a look. We'll definitely have the one you want. On both sides of the street, whether it was the stalls or the shops, they were all shouting hard, trying to attract the attention and interest of the many cultivators coming and going on the street. Zhuowen was surprised that although this was the underground city, it was not as dark as he imagined. Instead, it was like the outside world, sunny and warm like a spring breeze. He looked up and found that in the sky in the center of the underground city, there was a big fireball that was constantly releasing heat and light. The light and temperature of the underground city were supplied by this huge fireball. While Zhuowen also found that the surface of the entire underground city was surging with extremely strong fluctuations of array Dao. Bang! The large underground city was wrapped in a very powerful array restriction. Even if there was a great battle in the underground city, it would not affect the ground. Bang! However, if an expert at the level of Ni Gu Xingguang made a scene in the underground city, the great array around the underground city might not be able to stop him. Only yes, an expert at the level of Ni Gu Xingguang, with a respected status, would not come to the underground black market to buy things. It would be a disgrace to their reputation. My lord, the tickets for the divine worship are extremely rare and precious. Although they occasionally circulate in the underground black market, they are usually snatched up very quickly. Furthermore, the tickets for the divine worship are usually not circulated in the underground black market. Dream pulled Zhuowen's sleeve and said softly. Zhuowen nodded and looked at Misty Dream behind him as he asked, "Where is it?" The core of the underground black market, Black City, was also the most chaotic place in the underground black market. It's said that even universe Dharma adepts have fallen there. When Yan Meng mentioned Hei Cheng, her beautiful eyes were filled with fear. In her eyes, the cosmic law idol was already an unreachable expert. Such a powerhouse could fall in Black City. It could be seen how chaotic Black City was. "Take me there," Zhuowen said calmly. Smoke Dream was stunned. The reason she had mentioned Black City, and that her cosmic form had fallen there was to remind Zhuowen that it was dangerous there. She wanted him to back off. But the guy in front of him looked too calm, as if he didn't put the danger of Hei Cheng in his eyes. "My lord, even universe Dharma adepts have fallen there before. It's too dangerous. And I've never been to Black City. I've only seen the outline of Black City from afar." Misty Dream wanted to continue persuading him. She had almost died outside the underground black market, not to mention the even more dangerous Black City. She entering there was absolutely no chance of survival. "Lead the way. Otherwise, you'll die immediately." Zhuowen looked at Misty Dream calmly. His eyes flashed with red light and were cold and ruthless. Misty Dream trembled and didn't dare to disobey Zhuowen. She could only obediently lead Zhuowen to the core of the underground black market, Black City. Black City was located in the center of the underground black market. It was a fortress that occupied a large area. "Sir, not everyone can enter Black City, there are hard and fast rules. Outside Black City, there is a test of strength. If you can't pass the test, not only can you not enter Black City, but you will also be killed on the spot. On the way to Black City, Misty Dream told Zhuowen many things about Black City. Black City was the gathering place of the strongest experts in the underground black market. It was said that the minimum cultivation requirement to enter Black City was the peak of the universe tribulation. Clang. However, although this was the minimum requirement, most cultivators at the peak of the universe tribulation would not enter Black City. Because in Black City, cultivators at the peak of the universe tribulation were the lowest existences. They would be cannon fodder if they entered. If they were unlucky enough to be targeted by a certain expert, they would immediately be gnawed to pieces. Clang. However, it was not that there were no cultivators at the peak of the universe tribulation who entered. Those who entered either died or had special trump cards to protect themselves. While the test to enter Black City was also extremely simple, but it was very dangerous, Black the City would send 2 cultivators at the peak of the universe tribulation to fight with the tester. If they could defeat the 2 cultivators at the peak of the universe tribulation, they would have the qualifications to enter Black City. Only yes, this test was only for cultivators below the universe Dharma phase. If one was at the universe Dharma phase, they would not need to take the test and could directly enter Black City. Master, Black City is right in front of us. After Dream brought Zhuowen out of the bustling streets, they arrived at the edge of a cliff. Below the cliff was a huge basin. And in the center of the basin, a huge black fortress stood, surrounded by dense green grass. Looking around, on the high ground around the basin, there were all kinds of buildings. Some of the buildings surrounded the basin in a circular pattern, with the Black City in the center of the basin as the core. Let's go. When one ignored Yenmeng, who had a troubled expression, and continued to walk towards the basin. Just as they jumped down from the grass, several ear-piercing sounds suddenly came from above. 3 figures swept past them in a very tyrannical manner. While the violent energy ripples lifted up the grass that filled the sky and flew over. If not for Zhuowen waving his sleeve in time to block them, they would have been in a sorry state by these flying grass. They're so rude. Yenmeng's beautiful eyes glared angrily at the 3 figures that hurriedly swept away, muttering unhappily. Originally, Yenmeng's voice was not loud and theoretically, the 3 of them could not hear him. However, just as Yenmeng finished speaking, the 3 figures suddenly stopped and rushed back to Zhuowen's group of 5. Were you the one who said we were rude? The leader of the group was a skinny man with skin as white as a water ghost. His cold gaze swept across Zhuowen and the others, and finally landed on Yenmeng. Smokemeng was so scared that she took a few steps back. The skinny man in the lead had an extremely powerful aura, far surpassing that of the other cultivators Yenmeng had seen before. Chapter 4340. An elite at the cosmic Dharma plane level. I'm done for. I can't believe I've provoked such an elite. Meng Xian's heart sank to the bottom. She couldn't help but look at Zhuowen beside her. Her eyes revealed a pleading look, but more than that, there was despair. Although she had seen Zhuowen's strange and unfathomable methods, after all, that was only a side trick. Moreover, Zhuowen was only at the middle stage of the universe tribulation. No matter how strong this person was, he should only be at the peak of the universe tribulation. It was definitely impossible for him to be a match for a powerhouse at the universe tribulation level. Sir, you misunderstand. I have no dissatisfaction with you. Yenmeng revealed a fawning smile and said humbly. Yenmeng, what a coincidence. I didn't expect to see you again. When Yenmeng bowed and apologized to the skinny man, a fat middle-aged man walked out from behind the tall and skinny man. His small eyes stared at Yenmeng's graceful body. Yenmeng felt that this voice was very familiar and couldn't help but raise her head. When she saw the fat middle-aged man, she was first stunned, then she couldn't help but take a few steps back in fear until she retreated to Zhuowen's side. Why are you here, Fu Chen? Yan Meng stared at the fat man in horror. Of course, I'm leading the way for these two lords. After all, such noble existences like the two of you naturally have to come to the Black City to take a look. Fu Chen sneered. Is this your old friend, Fu Chen? The skinny man with a pale face frowned and asked. Originally Fu Chen, who was originally complacent, immediately recovered his humble attitude. He hurriedly bowed and said, This woman was once my exclusive property, but she escaped when I wasn't paying attention. I thought she would never come to the underground black market again. I didn't expect that I would be so fated to meet her again. In that case, I'll leave this woman to you. We'll go to the Black City first. The skinny man nodded and rushed towards the Black City with another person. They completely ignored Zhuowen and the others because whether it was Zhuowen or the three devil puppets beside him, the highest cultivation was only at the late stage of the universe tribulation. They didn't put such trash in their eyes at all. Yan Meng, I remember that when you escaped, you said that when you came back, it would be the day of revenge. I've seen you again, but your cultivation hasn't improved much. As for your companions, Fu Chen glanced at Zhuowen and the three demonic puppets standing beside Zhuowen. His eyes were filled with disdain and contempt. If you come back and obediently become my slave, I will consider not killing you. Fu Chen said calmly. Yan Meng said angrily, Fu Chen, in Zhixian Holy City, women's rights are supreme. Using women as slaves is a serious violation of Zhixian Holy City's rules. Aren't you afraid of Zhixian Holy City's law enforcement team? Fu Chen sneered and said, Yan Meng, this is the underground black market. The law enforcement team above ground has no jurisdiction over this place. Here, there is no difference between male and female rights. As long as you have the bigger fist and more money, you are the master of power. Now, you are talking to me about Zhixian Holy City's rules. Are you telling me a joke? Speaking up to here, Fu Chen's face turned cold and said, Now, kneel down, crawl over, kneel down and lick my toes. Moreover, take the initiative to become my slave. I can forgive all your past mistakes and let you live. Yan Meng clenched her fists tightly. She recalled the days when she was abused by Fu Chen and her heart sank. Don't think of making me submit. Even if I die, I will never become your slave again. Also, I have a new master now, and this lord is my new master. Smoke said. As Yan Meng spoke, she silently hid behind Zhuowen. Fu Chen frowned slightly and looked coldly at Zhuowen. He said, Yan Meng's new master? You are courting death. You even dare to snatch my slave. Don't you know your own weight? After discovering that Zhuowen was only at the middle stage of universe tribulation, Fu Chen's killing intent boiled. This kind of trash dared to snatch his woman. Zhuowen glanced sideways at Yan Meng who was hiding beside him. He swung his right hand and threw the latter to the side. Then, he looked straight at Fu Chen and said, Who do you think you are? So what if I snatched your slave? Do I need to apply for it from you? Fu Chen was stunned. He didn't expect that a mere middle-stage universe tribulation trash would actually point at him and scold him. This was simply courting death. You are courting death. Fu Chen was so angry that he laughed. He took a step forward and rushed towards Zhuowen at an extremely fast speed. When he arrived above Zhuowen, he took out his universe world. The terrifying and shocking aura of the peak of universe tribulation unrestrainedly crushed down. Zhuowen stood on the spot without moving. A strange and deep red light flickered in the depths of his eyes. At the instant this red light flashed, the three devil puppets beside him suddenly went crazy and let out beast-like roars of pain. This devil puppet's eyes were filled with a terrifying red light. Its four limbs were on the ground, and its hind legs suddenly stomped on the ground. It leaped into the air and grabbed towards Fu Chen. This devil puppet's four limbs were like hooks as it fiercely grabbed onto Fu Chen's plump body. No matter how Fu Chen attacked, it wouldn't let go. At the same time, the three devil puppets took out their blood-red universe world. The moment they took out their universe world, the huge blood-red world began to rapidly expand. A terrifying and destructive aura was constantly spreading. What? They're preparing to self-destruct. The moment Fu Chen was caught by the three devil puppets, he immediately sensed what the devil puppets were about to do. With a furious roar, he waved his arms and smashed the devil puppets on his body. However, his fist was like a clay ox entering the sea. Although the devil puppets were severely injured by him, they still refused to let go of Fu Chen even in death. At the same time, a strange demonic mist surged around Zhuowen's body. It suddenly spread out and enveloped Fu Chen's entire body. The moment he came into contact with the demonic mist, Fu Chen immediately discovered that his strength, body, and soul were being contaminated by some kind of demonic aura and were rapidly weakening. Fu Chen began to flee like a madman. He wanted to escape from this strange demonic mist first, and then get rid of the three devil puppets on his body. However, the more he fled, the more he discovered that the demonic mist was endless. He didn't escape from the demonic mist at all. Instead, the surrounding demonic mist became thicker and thicker, as if it was dyed black blood staining his body. Sensing that the aura of the three devil puppets' self-destruction was getting stronger and stronger, Fu Chen was completely flustered. He let out a panicked cry and became even more flustered as he searched for a way out of the demonic mist. However, what he didn't expect was that in reality, he had been walking on the spot in the demonic mist, while Zhuowen stood not far away from the demonic mist. His scarlet eyes looked mockingly at Fu Chen, who was running for his life like a headless fly. Bang! Bang! Suddenly, three terrifying explosions rang out from within the demonic mist. Under Zhuowen's control, the three devil puppets chose to self-destruct. The collapse of the three universe worlds produced an extremely huge amount of energy. Fu Chen let out an unwilling cry and was completely drowned by the energy produced by the self-destruction of the three universe worlds. The terrifying shockwave quickly spread in all directions in a circular manner. Zhuowen was still standing in the same spot. The strange demonic mist turned into a round egg and enveloped him, completely blocking the aftershock of the explosion. While Yan Meng wasn't so lucky. She was directly sent flying by the aftershock of the explosion and crashed heavily into the cliff at the edge of the basin in the distance. She spat out a mouthful of blood and her face was pale. Chapter 43-41. My lord! Meng ignored her internal injuries and the thick blood on the corner of her mouth. She crawled on all fours and crawled in front of Zhuowen, kowtowing repeatedly. At this moment, Yan Meng's heart was filled with fear and trepidation. She was afraid that her actions just now would anger Zhuowen and cause the latter to kill her in a fit of anger. After personally witnessing Zhuowen's expressionless face as he ordered the three devil puppets, who were her companions, to self-destruct and kill Fu Chen, she understood that the young man in front of her was definitely a ruthless character. Zhuowen coldly glanced at Yan Meng, who was still kowtowing, and said indifferently, "Continue to lead the way. Also, don't play any tricks in front of me in the future. You have to know that my patience is not limitless." Hearing this, Yan Meng trembled and kowtowed a few more times, indicating that she would not dare to do it again. Not long after Yan Meng and Zhuowen quietly left this place, Black City and the surrounding black market areas began to rush over one after another. The explosion of the three devil puppets was quite loud, and the entire underground black market was alarmed. However, after these cultivators heard the news and rushed over, they could only see the many potholes left behind by the battle. They did not see any other cultivators here. This after wandering around for a while, some cultivators left one after another, no longer lingering here. The underground black market was a place without rules and laws. It was a place where the strong preyed on the weak. Fights and deaths were inevitable. Long these cultivators who lived in the underground black market had long since become accustomed to it. They only regretted that they did not get any benefits from this battle and secretly hated themselves for coming too late. Deng Yen Meng and Zhuowen left the battlefield early and circled around to the entrance of Black City, but they were stopped. Black City was completely forged from sparkling and translucent black crystal stones. The entire surface of the battlements was suffused with a faint black halo. The gate of Black City was 300 feet tall. The surface of the gate was suffused with a faint black halo. In the halo, one could clearly see all kinds of patterns on the surface of the gate. Some of the patterns were of different shape. There were strange beasts of strange shapes, buildings of different styles, and complex runes. Many patterns combined together to form a mysterious and bizarre scene. At this moment, the city gates were tightly shut, keeping Zhuowen and Yen Meng outside. On the city wall above the city gate, 2 black-armored cultivators with black divine blades on their backs stared coldly at Zhuowen and Misty Dream. 2 lords, my master and I plan to enter the Black City to trade. I hope that the 2 lords can make it convenient for us and open the city gates. Misty Dream's posture was very low as she begged the 2 black-armored cultivators on the city walls. Standing on the right side of the wall was a black-armored cultivator with a long face. He glanced at Yen Meng and Zhuowen and said expressionlessly, "Scram? Why don't you take a look at your cultivation? You dare to come to Black City?" Meng's pretty face turned pale. She hesitated for a moment and looked at Zhuowen, who still didn't say anything. She knew that this was her chance to redeem herself in front of Zhuowen. If she couldn't even do this well, then she really had no value to Zhuowen. The scene of the 3 demonic puppets exploding involuntarily appeared in her mind. Her delicate body trembled. She once again gathered her courage and said to the black-armored cultivators on the city wall, "2 lords, isn't there a rule in Black City? Can cultivators below the cosmic Dharma form enter the Black City by challenging 2 cultivators at the peak of the great tribulation of heaven and earth?" The round-faced black-armored cultivator on the left side of the city wall couldn't help but mock. "There is such a rule, but why don't you take a piss and look at yourselves? An early-stage cosmic tribulation cultivator and a mid-stage cosmic tribulation cultivator dare to challenge us? Hurry up and scram. Don't waste our time," Yen Meng said. Meng's face flushed red. She felt helpless. Just as she was about to retort, a strong wind came from behind them. Original Zhuowen, who was standing silently behind Misty Dream, a cold red light flashed in the depths of his eyes. He snorted coldly, grabbed Misty Dream's right arm with one hand, and stepped into the void with his right foot, disappearing on the spot. Where the moment the 2 of them left their original spot, an extremely blazing and terrifying sword light suddenly swept over from the ground where they were originally standing. Then, the ground exploded, forming an incomparably huge gully. The radiance was intense and terrifying. After the ground was blasted apart, the endless aftershock of the sword radiance swept out in all directions, tearing the surrounding space into pieces. Clang! The sword light's aftershock spread out in an unparalleled manner. When it landed on the city gate of Black City, the patterns on the surface of the city gate constantly rippled, completely canceling out the aftershock of the sword light, while the city gate remained intact. Zhuowen looked deeply at the city gate of Black City. It seemed that the materials used in Black City were definitely not simple, to be able to completely cancel out the powerful and terrifying sword light so completely. Whoosh! After the sword light exploded, a figure slowly arrived and landed at the city gate. This was a handsome man with snow-white skin. He was dressed in a black robe and had a long sword at his waist. After he landed at the city gate, he glanced indifferently at Zhuowen, who was carrying the pale Misty Dream and retreating 100 steps away. The corner of his mouth raised into a mocking smile as he said indifferently, A trash in the middle stage of the universe calamity can actually dodge my casual sword strike. You are a bit interesting. But under my sword, there has never been anyone who has survived. Since you were able to dodge my sword move, it means that you are not ordinary. Then I will give you a dignified death. I will allow you to commit suicide to atone for your sins. Wen's face turned cold. Was there something wrong with this man called Jian Wu's brain? He was bragging in front of him. It was clearly his mistake, but in his mouth it was the greatest mercy. He even wanted him to commit suicide to atone for his sins. So it's Lord Jian Wu. Quickly, please come in. On the city wall, the two black-armored cultivators, who were originally expressionless and cold, immediately burst into smiles the moment they saw Jian Wu. They were as passionate as fire as they smiled flatteringly. They hurriedly activated the mechanism of the city gate and opened the huge city gate. They were beaming with smiles as they bowed to Jian Wu. Jian Wu turned a blind eye to them. Instead, he stared indifferently at Zhuowen. The mocking smile at the corner of his mouth became even wider. Zhuo said angrily, when slowly put down Misty Dream and looked at Jian Wu mockingly. Are you sure there is nothing wrong with your brain? The expression of Jian Wu, who had been looking down on Zhuowen from a lofty position, changed the instant he heard Zhuo Wen's words. Jian Wu said with a gloomy expression, "How dare you speak to Lord Jian Wu in such a manner? You are just a piece of trash in the middle stage of the universe calamity. You are courting death." On the city wall, the two black-armored cultivators immediately began to denounce Zhuowen. Their tone was unyielding and vicious. Zhuowen's gaze was calm. He looked at the two black-armored cultivators and asked, "Didn't you say that I am not qualified to enter Black City? Then if I defeat this person, will it prove that I am qualified to enter Black City?" Chapter 43-42. The two black-armored cultivators, who had been loudly berating Zhuowen, immediately shut their mouths when they heard Zhuowen's words, as if something was stuck in their throat. They looked at the young demonic cultivator who overestimated himself with a strange gaze. Sword Wu was an early-stage Dharma characteristic sword expert. He was quite famous in Black City. If the two black-armored cultivators could still believe it if an early-stage Dharma characteristic expert challenged Jian Wu. However, a mere mid-stage heaven and earth great tribulation trash actually dared to boast shamelessly that he could defeat Jian Wu. They simply could not believe it. Jian Wu was also stunned for a moment. Then, he laughed out loud and said, "You? Who do you think you are? You don't even have the right to challenge me. How dare you say you can defeat me? What right do you have? With that trashy cultivation of yours?" Wu mocked mercilessly. However, just as he finished speaking, he immediately felt a terrifying gust of wind whistling over. In the blink of an eye, it appeared in front of him. Before Jian Wu could react, a clear slapping sound rang out from his face. Then, he was sent flying by a huge force. He was sent flying backwards. Bang! Sword Wu crashed to the ground in a sorry state. He immediately jumped up and covered his red and swollen cheek with his right hand. His eyes were filled with exasperation as he stared at Zhuowen. "You dare to sneak an attack on me?" Jian Wu roared angrily. His originally handsome face was swollen, making him look extremely miserable. At the same time, Jian Wu became somewhat vigilant. Although Zhuowen's cultivation was not high, his methods were rather strange. He actually did not react to this person's attack just now. Zhuowen sneered. A mere early-stage Dharma characteristic expert needed him to sneak an attack on him. The red light in Zhuowen's eyes burned brighter and brighter. The billowing demonic fog was like thick blood that enveloped him. Boom! 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 Zhuowen rushed out again. Under the state of demonic corrosion, his speed was even faster than before. Almost as soon as Jian Wu finished speaking, he appeared behind Jian Wu. Zhuowen's right hand was like a hook. His 5 fingers tightly gripped Jian Wu's head, and then he ruthlessly smashed him to the ground. At this moment, Jian Wu had just placed his right hand on the hilt of the divine sword at his waist. He was a beat slower than Zhuowen. Boom! Jian Wu's entire face was smashed into the ground. His handsome face was embedded into the ground. Zhuowen's expression was normal as he grabbed the back of Jian Wu's head with his right hand. Then, he did not hold back and kept smashing Jian Wu's head. The dull crashing sound was so clear and ear-piercing at the Black City's gate. Hara, the 2 black-armored cultivators, who had originally wanted to watch the show, were dumbfounded. They kept rubbing their eyes, wondering if they were hallucinating. Smoke Meng's beautiful eyes flickered with shock. Although she knew that Zhuowen was very strong, he was at most a little stronger than a peak universe tribulation expert. But now, seeing how easily Zhuowen had beaten Jian Wu, who was at the early stage of the cosmic phase, into such a sorry state, she understood that she might have still underestimated Zhuowen's strength. "I want you dead!" Jian Wu roared. Jian Wu roared angrily and suddenly pulled out the divine sword at his waist. A majestic and vast aura burst out from his body. Then, a shocking energy seeped out of his body and turned into a huge celestial giant in the void behind him. Rolling cosmic phase fire swept over with the power to burn the sky. Zhuowen snorted coldly and released his right hand from the back of Jian Wu's head. He took the opportunity to quickly retreat, while Jian Wu, who was enveloped by the huge cosmic phase giant, supported his body with both hands and slowly climbed to his feet. His eyes had become completely crimson red. His originally handsome face had already become bruised and swollen, covered in bloodstains. Combined with the furious expression on his face, it caused him to appear exceptionally ferocious and terrifying at that moment. Sword Wu Kei was truly infuriated. He was a cultivator who cared a lot about his appearance. From his handsome face and well-maintained skin, it could be seen that he had high requirements for his appearance. Now, moreover, Zhuowen had reduced him to such a sorry state, and had even specifically slapped his face. How could he not be furious? Lord Jian Wu is truly enraged. He has even brought out his cosmos aspect. He really wants to kill. On the city wall, the expressions of the 2 black-armored cultivators became especially solemn. They silently stared at the huge cosmic phase giant and stood up. Their bodies could not help but tremble slightly. Smoke Meng also revealed a worried expression. She was naturally not worried about Zhuowen's safety, but her own. Bai Shi was actually in cahoots with Zhuowen here. If Zhuowen was killed by Jian Wu, the latter would not let her go. Sword Wu's cosmic phase was 800 feet tall. It was the image of a swordsman wearing a wide robe with 2 divine swords hanging from his waist. "You have completely angered me. I wanted to give you a dignified death, but you were too complacent. You actually dared to sneak attack me again and again. Such a shameless person should experience endless pain before he dies," Jian said. Wu's voice was hoarse. He slowly merged into the huge cosmic phase giant, and then the cosmic phase giant seemed to come alive. It took a step forward and rushed towards Zhuowen. Kunkeng! The sound of 2 swords being unsheathed rang through the void. The cosmic phase giant pulled out the 2 divine swords at its waist, and then stepped in front of Zhuowen. It crossed its hands and slashed out. The sword light was like lightning. The sword light soared into the sky. The 2 sword lights crossed each other and ruthlessly slashed towards Zhuowen. Zhuowen shook his head inwardly. Jian Wu's strength was really ordinary in his eyes. In the early stage of the cosmic phase giant, he could only be considered below average. Such a person had quite a reputation in Black City? This really made Zhuowen feel strange. Could it be that the so-called experts in Black City were not as strong as he thought? Thinking of this, Zhuowen took out the Taiyu sacred sword. He then held the sword hilt horizontally and slashed out. Heaven and earth primordial one-line sky. The fierce sword light pierced through the heavens and the earth. It was shocking. Under the cover of the demonic fog, there was a demonic red light flickering and lingering. The sword light was extremely fast and instantly arrived in front of the huge cosmic phase giant. Boom! At the same time, the demonic fog, which was as vast as the sea, instantly wrapped the huge cosmic phase giant tightly. Two lines the sword rays intertwined with each other, creating a loud noise that shook the heavens and the earth. Then, the colorful energy ripples spread out in all directions in a ring shape. It was a terrifying sight to behold. Gotcha! After the loud sound, there was a clear shattering sound. Jian Wu's powerful intertwined sword light was crushed by the strange red sword light. Under the support of the demonic fog, the sword light became even more powerful and strange. In the end, it heavily entered the huge cosmic phase giant. Jian Wu let out a shrill and ear-piercing roar. He watched as the cosmic phase giant on the surface was crushed by the strange sword light and crumbled inch by inch. After the huge cosmic phase giant collapsed, Jian Wu violently spat out a mouthful of blood. His body fell to the ground pathetically, twitching in pain. He tried to get up several times but failed. Lord Jian Wu must have won. When the black-armored cultivator saw someone fall out of the demonic fog and twitch pathetically, he subconsciously thought that it was Zhuowen. However, when they finally saw the true face of the twitching figure, they were all dumbfounded. Their jaws almost dropped. Chapter 43-43. Lost. Lost? You must be joking. The two black-armored cultivators looked at Jian Wu, who was lying on the ground and struggling to get up. Their hearts were filled with complicated emotions and shock. Zhuowen slowly walked in front of Jian Wu. The latter raised his head, gritted his teeth and said, You hid your cultivation? Who exactly are you? When Zhe looked down at Jian Wu, who was lying at his feet, and said expressionlessly, I am just a passerby who came to Black City to trade. Moreover, you used your high cultivation to oppress me. You only have yourself to blame for your death. With that, Zhuowen did not give Jian Wu a chance to beg for mercy. He gently raised the Taiyu holy sword in his hand and then fiercely swung it down. The blade that was as sharp as ice pierced through Jian Wu's forehead, instantly piercing through his head. Jian Wu's eyes were wide open as he stared at Zhuowen. His eyes were filled with unwillingness, resentment, regret and other complicated emotions. Even until his death, he never imagined that he would actually cause the death of a mid-stage heaven and earth great tribulation trash by just casually attacking him. The difference between life and death was the difference between life and death. After Zhuowen's sword pierced through Jian Wu's forehead, he slowly pulled out the Taiyu holy sword. He held the blood-stained sword and expressionlessly stepped into the already open city gates of Black City. Originally, the Black City gates were open for Jian Wu, but now, Jian Wu had been killed by Zhuowen, so how could the two black-armored cultivators dare to stop Zhuowen? Yan Meng hurriedly followed behind Zhuowen, silently following behind him. Her heart was also filled with apprehension, and her heart was beating extremely fast. The more she understood how powerful Zhuowen was, the more afraid she was of Zhuowen. However, when she realized that Zhuowen had no intention of pursuing the matter, she heaved a sigh of relief. When facing Zhuowen, her attitude became even more respectful, and she did not dare to be impudent in the slightest. The moment he entered Black City, Zhuowen could sense that there were many powerful and obscure auras in this city that was as black as ink. The weakest of these auras were around the early stage of the cosmic Dharma plane, and some of the stronger ones had even reached the peak of the cosmic Dharma plane. Black City was indeed the core of the underground black market. There were actually so many experts gathered here. Black in the city, there was only one wide street, surrounded by inns and residential areas. Most of the cultivators hurrying along the streets were wearing masks and hoods that shielded their divine sense. Zhuowen and Smoky Dream had already prepared the appropriate masks and hoods before entering the underground black market. Only yes, their cultivation levels were really too low. Their auras could still be sensed by many cosmic Dharma adepts that they were cultivators of the Great Tribulation of Qian Kuan. At the end of the street stood the most eye-catching black tower. This is the architectural style of this black tower was sharp and angular. It looked like an unsheathed sword that was abnormally sharp. The Black Tower was the core trading area of Black City. Many experts would take out precious items and enter the Black Tower to trade. If someone fancied something, the person in charge of the Black Tower would arrange for both parties to enter a secret room to discuss. Although Smoky Dream had never entered Black City, she had some understanding of it. Zhuowen also knew about Smoky Dream. The main trading in Black City was done in the Black Tower. The inns in Black City were prepared for the cultivators who came from outside. Of course, there were also some experts who bought real estate in Black City and turned it into inns to earn long-term profit. Moreover, the inns in Black City were not ordinary inns. They were extremely rich in chaotic energy and were excellent places to cultivate. This was just enough for many cultivators to wait in Black City and cultivate in the inns. Zhuowen brought Smoky Dream into the Black Tower. Token Zhuowen was helpless. The entrance fee of the Black Tower was extremely expensive. One had to pay 5 million chaos crystals to obtain a Black Tower token, while the Black Tower token only had the authority to enter and exit the Black Tower 50 times. After 50 times, the Black Tower token would disintegrate and become unusable. The Black Tower had a total of 10 levels. Each level had a huge central hall, and there was a huge screen of light in the center of the hall. Lighten the screen, there were many scrolling words. The content was basically all kinds of trading items, such as godly medicines, godly tools, godly pills, godly materials, godly talismans, and so on. Behind these trading items, there was a corresponding code name. This code name was the code name of the trading item's owner. If someone fancied the corresponding item, the person in charge of the Black Tower would contact the trading item's owner and arrange for the two to negotiate the trade. The Black Tower would then collect the corresponding service fee. Zhuowen understood. So many experts gathered in Black City, and the Black Tower was still standing. Most likely, its background was very strong. And in the Black Tower, the higher one went, the more precious the trading items displayed. Naturally, the higher the price. Some items could not be bought with money alone. Instead, they required the corresponding precious items to be traded. Ancient Abyssal Demon Stone. When he reached the 6th level of the Black Tower, Zhuowen stopped in front of the central hall, and his eyes fell on the screen of light in the hall. In the center of the screen of light, there was an introduction about the ancient Abyssal Demon Stone, which completely aroused his interest. The ancient Abyssal Demon Stone was born with rich demonic nature. The powerful demonic nature had extremely great side effects for the majority of cultivators. However, to demonic cultivators, the ancient Abyssal Demon Stone was like nectar, which could greatly increase the speed of cultivation of demonic cultivators. The introduction said that the ancient Abyssal Demon Stone could increase the speed of cultivation of demonic cultivators by 2 times. This was extremely shocking. However, the ancient Abyssal Demon Stone was only suitable for demonic cultivators. There were more limitations, so there were not many people who paid attention to it. Although there were hundreds of rivers in the 100 outer realms, demonic cultivators were in the minority. This also caused the ancient Abyssal Demon Stone's position in the Black Tower to be somewhat awkward. No one cared about it. Zhuowen thought for a moment, and walked to the front of the counter closest to the central hall. Standing behind the counter was a good-looking woman. There was a professional smile on her lips. "What kind of item do you want to trade?" the woman asked with a smile. "Ancient Abyssal Demon Stone." Zhuowen deliberately lowered his voice, which was slightly hoarse. Female Z was startled, then nodded and said, "Sir, please wait for a moment. I will go and call the person in charge of the 6th level." As Z spoke, she stood up and walked toward the depths of the hall. No, after a while, the woman came out with a middle-aged man with a cold gaze. The middle-aged man was not very tall. In fact, he was even shorter than the woman beside him. However, his eyes were extremely sharp, like that of an eagle's. They gave people a very uncomfortable feeling. This person's aura was not weak. He was actually a strong cultivator at the middle stage of the Dharma plane of the universe. "Lord Shangwan, this is the guest who wants to trade the ancient abyssal demon stone." Z walked to the front of the counter and pointed at Zhuowen with a slender finger as she spoke to the middle-aged man beside her. The middle-aged man glanced at Zhuowen, and had the woman continue to stand guard at her post. Meanwhile, he walked in front of Zhuowen. Chapter 43-44. "Sir, are you sure you want to trade for the ancient abyssal stone? The side effects of this item are not small. Even a devil cultivator has a lot of drawbacks, not to mention you aren't even a cosmic image," the middle-aged man said bluntly. "It doesn't matter. Even if I don't need it now, it will come in handy when I break through in the future. After all, the ancient abyssal stone is not a cabbage that can be found everywhere. If you miss it this time, you may not have the chance to find it again in the future," Zhuowen said lightly. The middle-aged man pondered for a moment and continued, "Also, the owner of the ancient abyssal stone doesn't need chaos crystals. He needs second heaven's eternal divine medicines. It would be best if you have a 9-leaf ginseng fruit or a 7-colored lotus root. If you don't have it, other healing divine medicines of the same level are also fine. If you have a second heaven's eternal divine medicine, this deal can be made." While speaking, the middle-aged man looked at Zhuowen indifferently. After coming out, he saw at a glance that Zhuowen's cultivation was only at the middle stage of the universe tribulation. Although he wondered how this kid entered the Black City with such a low cultivation, he didn't think much about it. Instead, he put forward the request of the ancient abyssal stone's owner. He believed that after hearing this request, Zhuowen would definitely back out. After all, Zhuowen's cultivation was too low. Not to mention second heaven's eternal divine medicines, he was already rich with first heaven's eternal divine medicines. "I have the 7-colored lotus root. You can contact the owner of the ancient abyssal stone." The middle-aged man was surprised that Zhuowen really had a second heaven's eternal divine medicine. Moreover, it was the 7-colored lotus root that the owner of the ancient abyssal stone urgently needed. "Are you sure? Our Black Tower never lies. Once we do, it's a big crime," the middle-aged man said in a deep voice. "Let's go inside. I can take out the divine medicine for you to identify," Zhuowen said calmly. "Good. Come with me." The middle-aged man nodded and led Zhuowen and Yan Meng into the inner room. The area behind the hall was extremely large. There were dozens of private rooms. Occasionally, a few people would walk out of the corresponding private rooms. The middle-aged man brought the two of them to an empty box. It was spacious and comfortable. Furthermore, Zhuowen noticed that there were many shielding restrictions set up around the box. Zhuowen took out the 7-colored divine lotus root and handed it to the middle-aged man. Zhuowen had obtained this rainbow god lotus root from the 7 emotions, 6 desires Holy Lord's starlight world. He didn't expect it to come in handy so soon. It is indeed the rainbow divine lotus root. "The two of you please sit in the box for a while. I'll contact the owner of the ancient abyssal stone." The middle-aged man returned the 7-colored divine lotus root to Zhuowen. The corners of his mouth revealed a relieved smile as he hurriedly left this place. After the middle-aged man left, Zhuowen summoned Duan Jipeng and Shan Lingyun from the great cosmos. "Brother Duan, Master, we're already in Zhixian Sacred City's black market. You can browse around inside the Black Tower and see if there are any items you want to trade, Zhuowen said. Duan Jipeng and Shan Lingyun were already in the Great Cosmos. They already knew where this place was, so they weren't surprised. After Zhuowen briefly introduced the Black Tower to the two of them, he let the two of them leave the box and go to the other levels of the Black Tower. As for him, he continued to sit in the box and wait for the owner of the ancient abyssal stone. Down Yinmeng looked at Zhuowen with respect. After Duan Jipeng appeared, she could feel that the latter was also a genuine cosmic avatar expert. His aura was even stronger than Jian Wux's. However, Duan Jipeng was very respectful towards Zhuowen. From this, it could be seen that Zhuowen wasn't simple. Zhuowen didn't have to wait for long before the door of the box was opened again. The middle-aged man walked in. Behind him, a man covered in a black robe and wearing a strange mask silently followed behind him. Under the middle-aged man's lead, this person sat opposite Zhuowen. The pair of cold eyes exposed by the mask stared coldly at Zhuowen. "You're the one who wants to trade the ancient abyssal stone, right?" the black-robed man asked in a low voice. Zhuowen glanced at the man in front of him and frowned slightly. For some reason, he felt a strange sense of familiarity from this person. This sense of familiarity was very strange, but he just couldn't remember who this person was. "That's right." Zhuowen tossed aside the wild thoughts in his mind and replied indifferently. "The person in charge told me that you have the Rainbow God Lotus Root that I need. Give me the Rainbow God Lotus Root, and this ancient abyssal stone is yours." As the black-robed man spoke, he took out an irregular pitch-black stone. This stone was half the size of a palm. Its surface had irregular sharp edges, and the stone's surface was engraved with dense runes that were filled with demonic nature. Clang! The moment this stone appeared, Zhuowen immediately realized that the limitless demon book in the Great Cosmos had a strange reaction. As expected, his guess was right. This ancient abyssal stone was indeed of great help to cultivating the limitless demon book. Otherwise, the limitless demon book wouldn't be so excited. Zhuowen took out the Rainbow God Lotus Root and handed it to the middle-aged man. Medium after the middle-aged man received the Rainbow God Lotus Root and the ancient abyssal stone, he carefully examined them and didn't find any problems. He exchanged the two items and handed them to Zhuowen and the black-robed man respectively. After the black-robed man carefully examined them, he nodded slightly and put away the Rainbow God Lotus Root. "I still have some matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first." After the black-robed man finished speaking, he hurriedly left. While Zhuowen, on the other hand, left the room after paying the corresponding service fee. In the hall, Zhuowen looked at the black-robed man's back as he hurriedly left, and a thoughtful expression appeared in his eyes. The black-robed man gave him a strange sense of familiarity, but he couldn't remember who this person was. This meant that he wasn't familiar with this person, and they might have only met once. But Zhuowen was careful, so after handing over the Rainbow God Lotus Root, he secretly left a faint imprint on the Rainbow God Lotus Root. After he traded for the divine ship ticket in the Black Tower, he planned to investigate this person's true identity. Ever since he cultivated the primordial technique, Zhuowen's intuition had become more and more accurate. In the short period of contact with the black-robed man, his intuition not only gave him a strange sense of familiarity, but also gave him a hint of danger. This meant that this black-robed man was a threat to him, and he wasn't a good person. He had to be careful. Next, Zhuowen continued to browse in the Black Tower, and finally, on the 8th floor, he saw the divine ship tickets for sale. There were a total of 3 tickets for sale on the 8th floor, and each ticket was auctioned off. The highest bidder would win. With Zhuowen's current status, he really wasn't afraid of competing with money at all. Therefore, during the bidding process, Zhuowen finally won one of the tickets to the Void Yama realm at an extremely high price. The departure date of this ticket is 20 days later. It seems that I'll have to wait 20 days before I can take the divine ship to the Void Yama realm. Zhuowen looked at the departure date on the ticket, and was slightly disappointed. 20 days was still a little long for him, but he couldn't do anything about it. After all, in order to avoid exposing his identity, he could only buy the ticket in the black market. He didn't dare to buy it through the proper channels at all. Next, Zhuowen met up with Duan Jipeng and Shan Lingyun. The two of them also traded what they needed in the Black Tower, and their faces were brimming with excitement. In the end, Zhuowen decided to stay in the Black City for a while until the divine ship set off. Chapter 43-45. After leaving the Black Tower, Zhuowen found a nearby inn that was quite cost-effective, and immediately booked a room for a period of 20 days. Duan Jipeng and Shan Lingyun returned to Zhuowen's great world. As for Yanmeng, Zhuowen booked an ordinary room for her. And after returning to the room, Zhuowen raised his eyebrows as if he had sensed something. He realized that the little trick he had done to the Rainbow Divine Lotus Root had been triggered. What he had planted in the Rainbow Divine Lotus Root was an undetectable micromonitoring restriction. It would only be activated when the Rainbow Divine Lotus Root was being refined. Now, since the micromonitoring restriction had been activated, it was obvious that the owner of the ancient abyssal rock had begun to refine the Rainbow Divine Lotus Root impatiently. The scenery in front of him gradually changed, and the room around him soon became different. What appeared in front of him was another room. This room was much more luxurious than the one Zhuowen was staying in. In the middle of the room, a middle-aged man with a sinister expression sat cross-legged. Judging from his build, this was the black-robed man that Zhuowen had made a deal with in the Black Tower. However, when Zhuowen's gaze fell on the middle-aged man's face, he couldn't help but be stunned. I didn't expect it to be him. No wonder I felt a sense of familiarity when I made a deal with him back then. Wen muttered to himself. He had indeed seen the black-robed man before, and it was only a chance encounter. Because the black-robed man's true identity was actually Fei Pingze. Fei Pingze's cultivation and strength could only be considered average, but he had a powerful divine ship called the Black God, which greatly increased his battle strength. This left a deep impression on Zhuowen. Only yes, what Zhuowen couldn't understand was that Fei Pingze's identity had been exposed, and he was probably wanted by the Zhixian clan now. Why did he still dare to return to the Zhixian holy city? Following as the Rainbow Divine Lotus Root was being refined continuously, the scene in front of Zhuowen became more and more blurry. Zhuowen knew that once Fei Pingze completely refined the seven-colored Divine Lotus Root, the miniature restrictions hidden within it would vanish on their own. At that time, the scene would become pitch black. Not long after, when there was only 1/3 of the Rainbow Lotus Root left, Fei Pingze stopped refining. He took out the communication talisman from his waist and looked at the message. His face turned gloomy. He quietly put away the remaining Rainbow Divine Lotus Roots, then walked to the door and gently opened it. Only seeing the two people standing outside the door, they glanced at Fei Pingze and whispered something to him. Fei Pingze then allowed them to enter the room. At this moment, the restrictions on the seven-colored Divine Lotus had become rather damaged, so the images that were transmitted to Zhuowen were incomplete as well. However, Zhuowen was barely able to see the two people outside the door. It's them. What surprised Zhuowen was that he had seen these two people before. Zhuowen had seen them before. He had accidentally met Fu Chen when he had just entered the basin where the Black City was located. At that time, Fu Chen had brought two men to the Black City. However, the two of them were in a hurry and entered the Black City first, leaving Fu Chen to deal with them alone. And these two people were the two cultivators that Fu Chen had led to the Black City. Crippled, the incomplete scene flashed by and completely faded into a blur. However, Zhuowen could still barely hear the voice in Fei Pingze's room. Fei Pingze, You have disappointed that lord this time. I thought that you would be able to bring out the sacred fire source seamlessly, but you still failed and even exposed your identity." Outside, the pale and skinny man who was walking in front walked in first. His pair of vertical pupils stared coldly at Fei Pingze. Fei Pingze frowned slightly and said in a deep voice, "The security of Zixian Sacred City is far from what you can imagine. It's already amazing that I was able to steal the sacred fire source. It's simply a fool's dream to think that I can take it away without alerting the enemy. And the sacred fire source is indeed very magical. After my black god merged with the sacred fire source, its power increased by more than several times. It was as if it could destroy the heavens and earth. Then how miraculous is the higher level of the sacred fire source?" At this point, Fei Pingze's face was full of excitement and he couldn't help but dance with joy. Do I need you to tell me how magical the sacred fire source is? After all, the sacred fire source comes from the sacred fire source. Otherwise, that lord wouldn't have tried so hard to get this thing. This time, you acted without permission to steal the sacred fire source and alerted the enemy. This made that lord very dissatisfied. He specifically asked you to make up for your mistakes and help us seize the sacred fire source," the skinny man said indifferently. Fei Pingze frowned slightly and said in a low voice, "The sacred fire source is the core sacred object of the Zixian clan. It is said that it is stored in the core of the Zixian Sacred City. The 2 female supremes take turns to guard it, and the 5 saintesses hold a part of the key. If you want to get the sacred fire source, you must first obtain the keys of the 5 saintesses, and then enter the core of the sacred city and face a female supremacy. This is simply impossible for us to accomplish." The skinny man sneered and said, "This matter has already been arranged by the Lord." Chapter 43-46. Is that Lord also going to make a move? Fei Pingze suppressed the horror in his heart and asked in a low voice. "This depends on the situation, but I know that Lord will definitely be present to pay attention to the follow-up development. If the female supreme of the Zixian clan makes a move, he will naturally make a move as well," the skinny man said ambiguously. "Good. If so, then I will help you steal the key of the 3rd saintess as agreed." Fei Pingze agreed without hesitation. He knew how terrifying that lord was. His previous exposure of his identity had already made that lord unhappy. If he refused this time, what awaited him would be death. "Our operation will take place in about half a month. I will inform you through the communication jade when the time comes. I hope you won't disappoint that lord this time." The skinny man threw a communication jade to Fei Pingze. With a deep look in his eyes, he turned and left, leaving Fei Pingze standing there with a thoughtful look. At the same time, in another room of the inn, Zhuowen's eyes slowly narrowed. The conversation between Pingze and the skinny man. He heard it all without missing a single word. He was not interested in what grudges the so-called lord had with the Zixian clan. Even more so, Zhuowen wasn't even interested in their schemes and sabotage at all. But what he cared about was that these guys chose to make a move at this time, and to make a move on the Zixian Sacred City's divine ship. Damn it, why at this time? Fei Pingze frowned and sighed in his heart. His ticket was in 20 days, but these guys made a move in half a month. If they really succeeded, the Zixian Sacred City's divine ship might be damaged, and wouldn't his trip be delayed? From their conversation, Zhuowen could tell that the lord they were talking about was at least at the level of Nigu Starlight. It was impossible for Zhuowen to compete with a master of this level. If we want to prevent the divine ship from being damaged, then we must inform the Zixian clan and let them raise their vigilance. Zhuowen muttered to himself, frowning slightly. He did not have a good impression of the Zixian clan. From the actions of the 3rd saintess, it could be seen that the Zixian clan was not good people. But now, he needed to use the divine warship to travel to the Void Yama realm. If he wanted to protect the divine warship, he could only rely on the Zishuan clan. Judging from the conversation just now, they will make their move half a month later. During this period of time, I'll have Smoky Dream scout out the specific itinerary of the 5 holy maidens in the Black Tower. Zhuowen's eyes flickered. He knew that this news had to be passed on to the saintess of the Zixuan clan. After all, the 5 saintesses were the main managers now. As long as he knew the whereabouts of the 5 saintesses during this period of time, he could secretly approach the saintesses and inform them of this matter. Zhuowen summoned Smoky Dream, who was in the room next door, and ordered her to pay attention to the news of the 5 holy daughters in the Black Tower during this period of time. If necessary, she was to buy them at a high price. Although Yen Meng was puzzled as to why Zhuowen had started to pay attention to news about the Holy Maiden, when she thought about how powerful and ruthless he was, she didn't dare to question him. She only dared to silently carry out the tasks that Zhuowen had arranged for her. After Smoky Dream left, Zhuowen set up the corresponding restriction array around the room. Then, he took out the ancient Abyssal Devil Stone. I hope this ancient Abyssal Devil Stone can really help me break through to the second layer of the Limitless Devil Tome. Wen's eyes flickered with anticipation. He began to circulate the Limitless Devil Tome. The rolling demonic energy was like viscous blood, enveloping the ancient Abyssal Devil Stone. The moment the ancient Abyssal Devil Stone came into contact with the demonic energy, it immediately burst out with a strange black light, as if it had suddenly come alive. Waves of pure demonic energy surged over like a reverse tide, enveloping Zhuowen's entire body. Zhuowen immediately discovered that his understanding of the Limitless Devil Tome and the speed of his cultivation increased exponentially. As expected of the ancient Abyssal Devil Stone. According to the current cultivation speed, I'm afraid I'll be able to cultivate to the second layer of the Limitless Devil Tome very quickly. One couldn't help but secretly rejoice. He circulated the Limitless Devil Tome even faster. Time passed. Time passed faintly, and in the blink of an eye, it was already the 5th day. On this day, Zhuowen's room was filled with dense demonic energy. If not for the various restrictions and arrays in the surroundings, the demonic energy would have annihilated everything within a radius of a few thousand miles. The rolling demonic energy suddenly shrank rapidly. In an instant, it all poured into the body of the young man in the center of the room. The young man had a head of pitch-black hair that was untainted by a speck of dust. He slowly opened his eyes, which flickered with a demonic crimson color, adding to his demonic aura. The effects of the ancient Abyssal Devil Stone far exceeded my expectations. In just 5 days, I've successfully cultivated to the second layer of the Limitless Devil Tome. The young man was Zhuowen. He looked at the black ashes beside his feet, his eyes filled with sighs and laments. After cultivating to the second layer of the Limitless Devil Tome, Zhuowen also discovered that the demonic energy had become stronger. The increase in his own strength had also greatly increased. Even more, what surprised Zhuowen was that he had also obtained a new sacred art. This sacred art was called the Demonic Eye. Originally, Zhuowen thought that the Limitless Devil Tome only had one sacred art, and that was the demonic energy. As the Limitless Devil Tome continued to deepen, it only made the demonic energy stronger and stronger. Now from the looks of it, he was completely wrong. It should be that he could obtain a new sacred art without cultivating to a new level of the Limitless Devil Tome. And this new sacred art, the Demonic Eye, was also extremely extraordinary. It had 2 powerful eye techniques. One was that it could absorb demonic energy continuously, and during battle, it could release a powerful demonic god statue to fight. And the second was to use one's own demonic energy as fuel, igniting an eternal and indestructible eternal devil flame. This was especially true for the second eye technique. Its power was extremely great, but its side effects were also extremely terrifying. It was a move that harmed the enemy by 1,000 and the user by 800. Other than that, after Zhuowen successfully broke through to the second layer of the Limitless Devil Tome, his cultivation had also improved slightly. His cultivation was at the middle stage of the Universe Great Tribulation. Under the boost of the second level of the Limitless Devil Tome, his cultivation reached the peak of the middle stage of the Universe Great Tribulation in one go. He wasn't far from the late stage of the Universe Great Tribulation. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door, followed by Yan Meng's voice. Zhuo, after opening the door and letting Yan Meng in, when asked in a deep voice, "Any news?" Yan Meng was a little nervous. She nodded and said, "There is little news about the Saintess. This is sensitive information in the underground black market, so there are not many channels. Fortunately, I spent a lot of money yesterday and learned that the Saintess Zi Long will be holding a banquet in the Saint Pavilion. She wants to meet an important person. Sir, if you want to find the Saintess Zi Long, then you have to go to the Saint Pavilion." Hearing this, Zhuowen revealed a thoughtful expression. He just nodded lightly. It seemed that he had to go to the Saint Pavilion. Although, he said that he was not interested in the Saintess Zi Long, but this was the key to whether he could smoothly take the divine ship to the Void Yama realm. He had to pass on the plot and plan of Fei Pengze and the others to the Saintess Zi Long. As long as young master can give this servant a yin-yang spirit pill, this servant is willing to do anything. The beautiful maid's autumn eyes were glistening with tears, and her graceful snow-white body couldn't help but stick to Zhuowen. She breathed into Zhuowen's ear, soft and sweet. Zhuowen expressionlessly pushed the maid away and said in a low voice, "You may have misunderstood. What I want you to do is not what you think." As he spoke, Zhuowen took out a jade slip and said to the maid, "Later, when the owner of Sage Room 3 arrives, secretly place this jade slip on the tray of dishes and send it to Room 3. If you complete it, I will give you a yin-yang spiritual pill afterward." The beautiful maid blushed with shame. She knew that she had misunderstood Zhuowen's meaning, but she quickly returned to normal, and her eyes revealed hesitation. Although her position in the Sage Pavilion wasn't high, she knew that those who could host a banquet in the first 3 rooms of the Sage Pavilion were all important figures. If the information in this jade slip was normal, then it would be fine, but if it wasn't, wouldn't she be in trouble if the important figure in Room 3 became angry? You can rest assured that the information in the jade slip is good news for the person in Room 3. If she is in a good mood, she can even reward you. Of course, if you don't want to, I won't force you. Later, I will find other maids to help me complete this task," Zhuowen said calmly. The beautiful maid thought for a while, and finally accepted the jade slip. She said solemnly, "Sir, don't worry, Yingying will definitely not disappoint you." After the beautiful maid Yingying left, Zhuowen safely entered the number 4 private room. Next, the maids of the Sage Pavilion began to serve plates of exotic delicacies, and the service of the maids standing around was very considerate. This Sage Pavilion is indeed worthy of its reputation. Their dishes contain extremely rich energy essence. Eating these dishes will be of great benefit to one's qi, blood, and cultivation. Duan Jipeng took a sip of the sweet divine wine and said in amazement, "Delicious, really delicious." Shan Lingyun and Shi Patian fought to be the first to grab the dishes, wolfing them down as if they were afraid of being robbed. Yan Meng, on the other hand, was absent-mindedly chewing and swallowing. She looked at Zhuowen from time to time, and then looked at Duan Jipeng and the rest without saying a word. While Zhuowen and the others were silently waiting for the news in Sage Room 4, a beautiful maid brought 4 people to Sage Room 3 next to them. Among the 4 people, the leader was a beautiful woman in a luxurious dress. She was the third holy maiden, Zilong. At this moment, Zilong was talking and laughing with the three people beside her. The three people were an old man with an antique lamp, a demonic woman with scarlet lips, and a middle-aged man with a horsetail whisk. If you don't read it, he said that you will regret it. However, Zilong laughed. What a boastful tone. If I don't see it, I'll regret it. Although Zilong did not take it seriously, she still picked up the jade slip on the tray and sent a part of her divine sense into the jade slip. After she finished reading, her face suddenly became extremely serious. Where is the person who gave you the jade slip? Zilong suddenly stood up and asked Ying. That senior said that if you trust him, then I will bring him to you. Ying said softly. Zilong's beautiful eyes flashed and she said in a deep voice, Bring him here. Ying bowed and left the third private room. She brought the news to Zhuowen, who was in the fourth private room. You did well. This is the yin-yang divine pill. In the fourth room, Zhuowen was very satisfied after listening to Ying's report and handed the yin-yang divine pill to Ying. The yin-yang divine pill was just a divine pill that could break the heavens' 6 changes. To the current Zhuowen, it was worthless. Naturally, he wouldn't be stingy. After Ying received the yin-yang divine pill, she brought Zhuowen back to the third room. Of course, in order to confuse the public, Zhuowen deliberately let Ying walk around the Saint Pavilion before coming to the third room. The Saint Pavilion's security measures were very good. Every room had a restriction that blocked divine sense. Therefore, when Zhuowen came out of the third room, he was not afraid of being detected by Zilong's divine sense in the fourth room. After Zhuowen entered the third room, Zilong dismissed all the maids in the room and pointed to the seat opposite her. Zhuowen nodded and sat opposite Zilong, silently waiting for the latter to speak. How should I address you? Zilong looked at the young demonic cultivator in front of her, who was full of demonic nature and whose eyes were shining with a demonic red light. There was some doubt in her eyes. She always felt that the young demonic cultivator in front of her gave her a strange sense of familiarity. My name is not important. What is important is whether or not Saintess Zilong believes the information I gave you. Zhuowen said lightly. You said that in half a month, someone will attack the divine ship. How are you going to prove that what you said is true? Zilong's expression was extremely serious. The divine ship was an extremely important means of transportation for Zixian sacred city. At the same time, it was also one of the most heavily guarded places. For many years, many people had the idea of attacking the divine ship, but in the end they all returned in failure. Therefore, she did not think that there would be anyone who would dare to attack the divine ship of Zixian sacred city. I can swear to the heavens that what I said is true. If you still don't believe me, then I have nothing to say. Zhuowen shrugged and said lightly. Chapter 4350. Zhuowen's formation is a new kind of formation that he has never seen so far. It is different from the mainstream formation and his family's thunder formation. In his hunch, Zhuowen's formation is even connected to all the mainstream formations and thunder formations, so he resolutely and shamelessly worshipped Zhuowen as a teacher. He hopes to learn the new formation from Zhuowen, rekindle his hope, and climb to the peak of the formation. And Zhuowen indeed didn't disappoint him. During this period of time, Zhuowen would occasionally discuss the Tao of formations with him. Every time, Zhuowen would say something shocking that benefited him greatly. And his array Tao was about to break through to the second sky of eternal realm. The Thunder Array clan? Zhu Yuan, are you sure you can make your grandmother listen to you? Zhuowen asked. Zhu Yuan smiled bitterly. I will try my best. I have been away from home for too long. I don't know if the family head is still my grandmother. Zhuowen thought for a moment and said in a deep voice, Well, I will go to the Thunder Array clan with you. If there is any accident, I can help you. Although Zhu Yuan didn't say much about the reason why he left home, Zhuowen can guess that his people are not very good to him, and may even be malicious. In addition, Zhu Yuan has been away from home for so long, if he returns to the Thunder Array clan again, there may be some accidents. Zhu Yuan nodded and did not refuse. He knows that Zhuowen is extremely strong, and almost no one can hurt him under the ancient starlight. Moreover, Zhuowen's formation level is extremely powerful. Although it may be slightly inferior to his grandmother, his new formation is extremely powerful and can make up for some of the gap in level. Even if Zhuowen is worse than his grandmother, it should not be a big gap. Yes, after making the decision, Zhuowen went to the Thunder Array clan with Zhu Yuan. Because Zhuowen is still wanted, Zhuowen used the power of the ancient Hongmeng method to change his appearance and breath again, and then silently followed Zhu Yuan to leave the inn and go to the Thunder Array clan. Thunder the Formation clan's land was located southwest of the Purple Jade Sacred City. Purple the Xian clan treated the Leijin clan very well. They gave the Leijin clan an extremely vast piece of land in the southwest. Half of the southwest corner of the Holy City was the territory of the Lightning Array clan. This was equivalent to the size of a Sure-Ran Divine City. Looking at the behemoth-like high wall in front of him and the huge city with people coming and going, it was indeed worthy of being the area second only to the core area of the Zixian clan in Zixian Sacred City. The members of the Lightning Array clan all wore long robes with the symbol of lightning on them, which showed that they were members of the Lightning Array clan. This time, they came to the Thunder Array clan for nothing, so Zhuowen suddenly mentioned it, which made the Zhu Yuan a little confused about Zhuowen's thoughts. According to what you're saying, as long as the true essence of the Thunder Origin Array diagram is comprehended by anyone, then the Thunder Origin Array diagram's old patriarch will be able to come out? Zhuowen asked. Chen Yin's eyes narrowed. He looked deeply at Zhuowen and said in a low voice, in theory, yes. I don't know why Brother Mo1 asks this. I want to try it. I am not a member of your Thunder Array clan. That is to say, I do not have to abide by your ancestral rules. Even if I do not comprehend the true essence of the Thunder Origin Array diagram, I can leave on my own. Once I comprehend it, I will give you the true meaning I have comprehended without reservation, but I need the old patriarch to do something for us. At this point, Zhuowen was quite helpless. Now he has no other way, he can only do this. No. The Thunder Origin Array diagram is the secret of my Thunder Array clan. How can it be touched by outsiders? Chen Yin waved his sleeve and flatly refused. Cousin Chen Yin, I hope you can let Brother Mo1 try. His formation is unique and extremely extraordinary. He may really comprehend the true essence of the Thunder Origin Array diagram. Moreover, the Thunder Origin Array diagram has been placed in the clan for countless years, and the successive generations of patriarchs have not been able to comprehend it. This thing has become a symbol and even a burden for our Thunder Array clan. If you can unlock the secret of the Thunder Source diagram, my Leijin family will be really strong. At that time, you will be a great hero in the history of our Leijin family, and you will be famous in history. The Zhu Yuan said sincerely. He has faintly understood Zhuowen's idea. Although he is not very optimistic that Zhuowen can comprehend the true meaning of the Thunder Origin Array diagram, at present, this is the only way to let his grandmother leave the Thunder Origin Array diagram. Chenin fell into silence. The emotions in his eyes were complicated. He was thinking and hesitating whether to consider the words of the Jiu Yuan. Jiu, the original words are not wrong. The Thunder Origin Array diagram has indeed become a burden for their Thunder Array clan. Both previous patriarchs have not been able to comprehend the true meaning of the Thunder Origin Array diagram, so many of their lives have not completely reached the end, and they are unwilling to come out and stay in the Thunder Origin Array diagram for a long time. And this has also led to the real formation masters of the Thunder Array clan being firmly trapped in the ancestral teachings, making the Thunder Array clan worse generation by generation, and almost even the inheritance will be broken. Chapter 43-52. Is this the Thunder Array diagram? When he arrived in front of the stone tablet, Zhuowen stretched out his right hand and stroked the complex and strange array diagram in front of the stone tablet. His eyes showed a dignified expression. The Thunder Array diagram was definitely the most complex of all the arrays he had ever seen. He could only understand a small part of it. Chen Yin had been paying attention to Zhuowen. When he found that Zhuowen's eyes showed some confusion, he was quite disappointed. He knew that the good friend of the Jiu Yuan in front of him could not even fully understand the surface of the array diagram. It was simply impossible to enter the Thunder Array diagram to understand the true meaning of it. Chen, although Yin was disappointed, he was not too rude. Instead, he said in a deep voice, "Brother Mo1, if you think it's not possible, just give up. I'll take you back the same way." "I'll give it a try," Zhuowen said with a smile. Chenin said helplessly, "In that case, I wish you good luck. If you want to give up, just send me a message. I'll come and pick you up." After speaking, Chen Yin did not wait for Zhuowen to answer. He held the patriarch's order and walked back. Zhuo, the fingertips of Wen's right hand gently fell on the center of the stone tablet array diagram. He sensed an indescribable call. He did not resist this call. His whole body and mind were immersed in it. Then, he disappeared in front of the stone tablet. When he opened his eyes again, he found that he had come to a strange space. This space, there was no sky, no earth, and it was boundless. The entire space was in a primitive state of chaos. In this state of chaos, the only thing that existed was the occasional flash of huge lightning in the depths of the darkness. The thunderbolt struck down, bringing with it an instant of light, but also a loud clamor. Zhuowen's gaze fell on the lightning that suddenly flashed in the distance. He suddenly found that when the lightning fell, there were dense and complex array patterns in the trajectory of the lightning. Zhuowen was deep in thought. He vaguely understood that perhaps the secret of the Thunder Array diagram should be the strange lightning that suddenly flashed in this space. He silently observed the lightning that flashed from time to time. The lightning was far and near, but the array patterns left in the trajectory of each lightning strike were completely different. Zhuowen knew his own limits. He knew that with his current level of array formation, it was simply wishful thinking for him to completely comprehend the array pattern in the thunderbolt. However, the reason why he dared to agree and come to the Thunder Origin formation diagram was not because he was reckless, cause after all, there were two primordial stones in his spiritual soul. The ancient primordial stone was far more mysterious and ancient than the Thunder Origin diagram.